Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and mother flipping Wraith Knights to that 6+++ show. I'm your host, Tom, and I'm drinking very nice red wine because we're in celebrating mood because we had a pretty good weekend at the old ITT, doing some games, taking some names. I was getting carried for most of it, but we'll get to that a little bit later. And we're going to tell you all about it tonight. We've got all the stories, really cool event, really cool experience for us. We had 3 teams in action, loads of anecdotes and loads of stories to tell. So we're going to be getting to that in just a moment. I will introduce our cast of players. We'll do a smidgen of self-promotion because we are very good at self-promotion, possibly the best. And then we'll get right into us. If you are listening, let us know. Let us know what you're up to. Very keen to hear from you in the chat. Were you at ITT? How did it go? What did you take? Who did you play? Did you play us? Were we awful? Did we cheat? Let us know. I want to know in the comments. So do pipe up and get involved. Right, cast of players. I get to start where I like to start because he's here. The patriarch is here. Yeah. So Chris has obviously had a lot of life happening to him pretty fast. But let's hear from him. Chris, how are you, mate?
I'm alive. It's been. I went back to work for the first time yesterday, having had 3 weeks off paternity, and everyone's like, "Oh, how's the baby?" And I'm like, "Baby's great. Everything else has gone to absolute shit. Baby's all good. There's been bereavements in the family. There's been emergency operations at hospitals for family members. It's been house issue after house issue with the new thing. So the weekend was quite a nice opportunity just to play some 40k and just put real life on hold, really.
And you were, I think, for a man who hadn't had much time for 40k lately, you did pretty damn well, but we'll get to that. Chris was incredibly consistent, didn't let the side down at any stage.
Consistent is certainly the word.
Yeah, but it's Grey Knights, isn't it? It's Grey Knights. Grey Knights doing Grey Knights thing. But yeah, I thought you were great, and it was really, really cool to have you out again. I am also joined tonight by my sensei, currently the leading champion in sportsmanship on the UK TC circuit because he went and won bloody best sport at a multi-hundred people event. It's Scrivo. Scrivo, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. In relation to that, on the way out of the venue, I saw a guy that I'd played and stoved in is probably the term for it. And it was mostly because he was like, my rule, my consistent with dice where 1s and 2s tend to be what my dice do.
That's you're good 2s, mate. When you're re-rolling 1s, it's 2s. That's what I find.
This chap consistently was rolling 2s, so his Ultramarine Vanguard folded, and I said to him, "I'm not sure how I got this award because our game means you definitely didn't vote for me." And he went, "No, I loved our game." And I was like, "What? Okay." So it was really nice, but at the same time, I feel like a right imposter because you never expect it, right? Especially when I don't remember to vote myself.
Of course not. No, but it was amazing and thoroughly well deserved because you're a lovely flipping man to play with. And again, if you're winning games and you're still getting the votes, that's a pretty cool story, good, right? Isn't it? That's a cool position to be in. And I assume, other than ITT, your hobby life's been pretty quiet. Is there anything else in the pipeline?
I dug out a massive box of World Eaters yesterday.
You did.
And then found stuff I didn't remember buying, which is even worse. But because apparently full send melee armies are definitely my jam. So after ITT at the beginning of the year playing Bully Boys, then doing Stormlance, Dark Angels this weekend, I just need another full send army apparently.
I think it's what you like to do, mate. So I think you lean hard into it and enjoy it. Yeah, World Eaters would be great fun. Yeah. Super, super fun. And I am also joined by Omegon's captain and one of our very favourite people, the wonderful Lewis Elms. Lewis, how are you?
Hello, Tom. That was a very nice introduction there.
You know what? You deserve it. You deserve it.
Shit talk about Omegon.
I was out. There was some banter about Omegon, and if he's ever listening, Ed Fawcett, it's because of you, mate. Whatever IGT we have where Ed was giving it all that about Omegon for the entire weekend, I've got a residual sort of competitiveness with Omegon that's just a leftover competitiveness with Ed Fawcett. Current Omegon absolutely don't deserve it because they were giving no banter whatsoever. They weren't. I was like, we must finish my Omegon. We can't have it. So thanks, Ed, for scarring me with that one. That's very, very good. But yeah, I mean, have you had a good weekend? Did you enjoy yourself captaining the team?
I thoroughly enjoyed myself, Tom. I have discovered an important thing. The Tau Codex is very different to the Tau Index. when one has the Tau index rules in one's head, it takes a little while to adjust. Because the little data cards that I have for the index are wrong.
Oh no! Oh
Sometimes
dear!
in my favour, sometimes not in my favour. So I
Excellent.
basically cheated my way through the weekend.
Wonderful. Very,
It
very
didn't help.
exciting. Oh man, I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about that. Before we launch into that, we will of course give the chat some shout outs. We've got Connor Nichols in. Hello Connor, missed you this weekend. Scrib is as always in the chat and in presence at the same time. Alex Chancellor is in, and I want to shout Alex Chancellor out because he was due to be on this show to talk about our other team, Legion, who had a wonderful weekend, performed really well, having fun playing all the armies they wanted, including Lee Jones's Dread Mob, which was a wild ride for them in the pairing sense. And they had a great time, acquitted themselves really well. But unfortunately, Alex was having some tech issues and he's been lost in the warp. He was unable to connect with us. So we'll have to find out about that another time. But hopefully we'll get Alex sorted out on the tech front and he can come and chat on the show very soon because obviously we love him to bits. So who else is in? We have Gastronauticon. I've not seen you in a little while, Gastronauticon. Nice to have you here. Barry is in. Luke Harris is in. Hello, Luke. And of course, the lovely Ben Jones is in. Wonderful. Ben Jones from Vanguard Tactics. We got to play, we'll get to it, but we got to play an incredible round with them for the second ITT on a bounce. We played them in our final game. And Ben Jones and Harley, I know, had a fantastic game. And Barry says, disappointed you dodged the LGT rematch, Chris.
Well, I wasn't there to do the pairings, otherwise I would have definitely engineered it, Alex, don't worry.
Oh, man, wonderful. So, yeah, please do keep shouting out, guys. Lovely to have you all in. Let us know how your ITTs went, what you ran, anything cool that happened to you whilst you're out there. I'd love to hear your stories. So, self-promotion. We are very good at self-promotion, possibly the best. Chris, what are we self-promoting? What's going on?
Well, we've... these are fancy.
Things have changed since you've been gone.
What is this?
Scribner's working on the tech side.
So, in terms of videos, it's probably fair to say it's been a bit quiet. But as we will allude to when we talk about Omegon, JP did quite well with his Tyranids.
Didn't he just?
And if you are a Tyranid fan, as you know, us mere mortals don't ever talk about Tyranids to a satisfying level for our
the bug watch
viewership. So if you want to hear that, you probably already watched it because you're all losers. But David and JP on Monday did an in-depth look at why you should be taking 6 Hive Guard in your teams lists.
Can I just say, Chris, I was running Hive Guard right at the start of the edition before they were called, so I'm taking full credit for the fact.
Yeah. You only took 3 though, pussy.
Yes, but I would have taken 6 if I could.
Yeah. So yeah, check that out. Other than that, there's been a Marine video out last week.
Yeah.
And it's been quite quiet. But obviously we still have event tickets still going. So for those of you who've been hiding under some sort of rock, we are obviously running our very own 6++ event in March, 15th, 16th in Barnsley, and there are 17 tickets remaining. And we had a recent idea, literally today, of something that could maybe happen the day before. And we're going to be investigating some things.
Yeah, we'll let you know if we can.
We'll let you know. But yeah, that's going to be really good fun at it. That's the main thing, really. As always, it's great to have you along. Like, subscribe. We have a membership section.
Yes, we do. And in fact, one thing that did come out last week was a very interesting video. If you're interested in 40k Teams life, and hopefully we'll endeavour to sell that to you today, Chris did a video about the entire sort of history and development of 6++ as a team.
Just being in a team, not necessarily so much playing Teams 40k, but the aspect of being in a team and running a team. So I talk about positive and negatives of being in a team, the stages of development of being in a team. Be really careful who you recruit, basically. But I just then give like various anecdotes about stuff we've kind of had happen and discuss and worked on. And I know I spoke to Sam Dunn from Warhamsters, and he said like his team had literally just the night before had been around dinner, and that video had prompted an entire discussion at the dinner table as a group and got them thinking. So definitely. This also gives you advice on how to set up a team and the sort of things you need to do from a logistical perspective and an advice perspective. Just
It's a really good video.
It's
I
in the
recommend
members
it.
section. It's in the members.
Yeah, so if you're signed up as a YouTube member, you can access that. We've got some other videos that have come out recently as well in the members only. So there's a few bits of content in there, and I highly recommend it. So yeah, thank you. We're about to hit 60 YouTube members, which for us is incredible. We're really excited. It's boomed this year. So if you haven't already and you'd like to sling us a couple of pounds a month to say thanks for all this nattering what we've done, then do get yourself signed up. We really appreciate it. It unlocks all sorts of content. It unlocks participation in TTS leagues. We're running one up until Christmas, but then there'll be another. Our painting competition is about to come to an end at the end of this week, but then there'll be another one, so that will get you entry into that if you're interested as well. And obviously it helps to support us and make more content. So yeah, do get involved if you haven't already. Hello BMob in the chat. I believe someone played BMob this weekend, didn't they, Scrib? Yeah, we're going to get to that. That's exciting. Martin Dora is in the chat. Amazing to have you here, Martin. Hope you're well. And yeah, I mean, everything 6 Plus keeps on rolling. We've just had a big planning meeting, so we've got a few changes. We'll be smoothing things out, professionalising things even more, ready for the new year. But that can wait. That's not for now. What's for now is the ITT, the autumn edition. You know, these things are every 3 months now. They're our favourite bit of the season in many, many ways. That and Saffron Slam Teams are my 2 favourite events that I get to go to in the UK. And so I think that's what we'll start talking about. And so I think, obviously, I'll speak for Legion first. We took 3 teams to ITT, and we had Legion, who were very much running exactly what they wanted to run and took a whole mix of things. Dread Mob, Astra Militarum, Votan acquitted themselves really well. Had, by all accounts, fantastic games. I think they were 2-1-2 in the end, and placed in the 30s. So really, really solid bang average 6 plus performance, exactly what we've come to expect. But my understanding is that as long as you can get Lee Jones into Tyranids, everything's going to be all right. So well done to them. Really proud of them all. And I want to shout out Jack Doddy, because Jack Doddy is one of the unsung heroes of 6 Plus. He's always this lovely, enthusiastic, committed presence. He has the wisdom and maturity of a man older than I currently am, and he's about half my age. So I'm endlessly impressed with Jack Doddy. I hope one day to be as mature as that boy is.
And have his beard, because you can't grow that.
I can't. Thanks, Scott, for that. Put the knife right in.
Get the knife right in. Yeah.
We've got some questions about where our pairings princess. Well, we're going to get to the pairings princess. I say the pairings princess is at work right now, but when he gets home from work, he's going to be recording a very special interview all about how you can make Eldari work in teams. Don't you worry. Eldari State of Play hopefully coming very soon, and you can find out exactly how this grand experiment of ours went right. But before we talk about that, Omegon, set the scene for me. Scrivo, Lewis, talk me about Omegon getting ready going into this event. What sorts of rigorous prep and hard effort and montage-worthy sort of preparation did you guys undertake before the ITT began?
This would be the shortest montage you've ever watched, given our preparation consisted of a WhatsApp group with a couple of messages in it, a matrix that a good portion of us filled in effectively by accident, and a 10-minute phone call between me and JP to talk about how we're going to beat Ignite in the first round. As you can imagine, turns out that just being 5 half-decent players running lists you haven't really planned on a matrix you haven't really worked on doesn't necessarily win you an event.
All right, well, we'll get to that in some more detail in a moment when we start talking about the rounds, but obviously we also have to consider Alpharius. And Chris, what was going on in Alpharius land ahead of this event? I assume we too had really long-term foundations and plans laid in place and a very clear sense of what was going to happen right up until the event itself?
Or it was complete fucking carnage for the week.
I like this dude, Chris.
I like him too. He's got no time for that shit anymore.
No filter.
There's me, like, I don't even know where to begin. So I was always going to take Grey Knights.
Yeah.
What form of that was, in my mind, I was always going to be looking for my standard sort of drawish style list. It was just little tweaks. What could I improve on? But I wanted to take a list which I knew would score 70 to 80 points and could play into pretty much everything. Then we had Paul, and Paul is our Space Marines main, as we know, and Paul's been playing Champions of Us, and we just kind of, to an extent, left him to his own devices.
He's best allowed to cook, isn't he,
Yeah.
Paul, really? Yeah.
In the previous few weeks, before Battle of Britain, Tom, you'd kind of hit the GSC train, and you were really starting to develop them. You're seeing how good they were, especially in teens. To
Really
an
strong,
extent.
really effective. Yeah.
And that was lockdown. So we obviously, you were thinking like, do I have more shooting or less shooting? So, so be it. And then we had Harley, and Harley was on guard, but he was torn between copying David Gaylard's list or copying the Steam's list.
It's tough.
So
it's tough out there.
Which one was he going to copy? Who knew? Meanwhile, occasionally he was trying to build his own one,
having a panic attack,
and then being told that it wasn't good enough by Nassim, and whatever. And then we have Mr. Ed Watts. Now,
yes, our beautiful, beautiful wild card. Go on.
A week before LGT, Ed decided that he was going to take Sisters of Battle to LGT because they were his best shot at winning LGT. And it would be worth losing his entire life for 1 week to build and paint them, because he would still be able to take them to ITT. Because even if they get nerfed, he would still find a good build. I think it was probably about a week or two before the event.
I think
submission.
I think it was one.
One week before submission, he's like, guys, I think Eldar might be the answer. And we were like, what the fuck? Where did this come from? He's like,
some very real panic.
Wraith Knight. I think it's good, guys.
In theory.
Okay. Well, I don't know where this is coming from. And over the next week, it started his excitement and interest in taking Eldari.
Ed, when he's locked onto something, very, very bubbly, lots of energy, lots of excitement. Eldar had his attention, right?
He clearly had no desire to play the sisters.
No.
And we're like, right, okay. And we get to like Thursday, and about 700 WhatsApp messages of arguments between him and Harley in. And it's
shout out to them for the way they do business with each other.
Yeah, love it, guys.
Great for every message to be one of them disagreeing with the other one. That's really useful. That's a good vibe.
So, and to get to the point where there's just another argument going on, and I was like, right, let's just wait till Chris can respond and we'll make a decision. So then I'm like, right, don't do sisters. How do you feel about CSM? CSM seemed to be a list we're all worried about.
Very powerful. Yep.
We're very worried about CSM. So why don't we just take the CSM list? And Ed's like, yep, okay, cool. He plays a practice game with it or something into his own sisters, demolishes his sisters. Excellent, great. Ed then at the weekend is playing as a ringer in a competition. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to give my Eldari list a go. And I'm like, I can literally see where this is going.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Sure enough, on the Sunday of submission, he's like, yeah, I've been doing my matrix and blah, blah, blah. And I think, like, Tom and I was like, fine, it's on your head.
We chatted and we were like, I think that the simple thing is we put faith in him.
Yeah.
We go with it. The Eldar had been really good at Battle of Britain for the Irish team. In that specific, they have a very specific role. They attack certain things. They have to be very careful what they play, but they do have a role. And ultimately, Ed, for all his quirks, is a wonderful, wonderful player. So we're like, right, on Ed's head there, we'll put our faith in it. If it goes well, brilliant. If it doesn't go well, we've learned our lesson for next time.
And his matrix was basically done on pure, like, just theory.
Vibes.
Right?
Vibes.
Just
I had fun explaining to him why Thousand Suns was not a good matchup. That was good.
Yeah.
That's a reassuring conversation to have after it's been submitted. You're like, yeah, they just doom bolt you twice and then both your big units are dead.
So we ended up with Ed on Eldari with a Wraith Knight and an Avatar, and then
like 7 units.
Yeah, that was it. No one has looked at this list and gone, this is a good list. I want to play this list. Everyone's looked at this list and gone, I want to eat upon this list. I would easily beat this list. So well, that was for us. We kind of very quickly got the vibe that this was going to be, as you see in the chat, he was going to be our pairings princess.
Yes.
We were going to have to guide him.
And we actually got tiaras brought along. We had tiaras brought.
Thank you, Scriven.
So whoever was pairings princess could wear the tiara, and indeed Edwards was our pairings princess. So this obviously for us was quite interesting. We had, I think, potentially an ace in the hole. We potentially had something that was going to surprise people. I actually think in the current meta that's really, really good, really useful to have. And then we had quite a lot of quite known entities, right? GSC, you know what they do. Grey Knights, you know what they do. Space Wolves, you know what they do. And then Harley, Guard, again, you know what it does. So I think the comp actually was settling quite nicely. I think actually with hindsight, with a bit more time, I'd have adjusted my list a little bit for the role it was going to be playing as a result. But that's on me to be sharper with and make the adaptations. But generally, we're going in. And I was quite excited because as I was saying to Chris, I was like, I've got no idea what's going to happen now.
Yeah.
Like, I've got absolutely no idea. This could be the best or the worst thing ever. So that was us setting the scene. Okay, so there's the scene set. The Pairings Princess himself is actually in the chat now. So I'm sure you'll get many extra little bits of detail from there. And I'm sure maybe he'll see it a little bit differently.
He's clearly working really hard. Well done.
Yeah.
Hardly working.
Nice to have Team England 40k in the chat as well. That's awesome.
I've just realised your definition of pairings princess is very different to mine. And I think we done fucked up, given that we gave JP the tiara to wear for the weekend because he was the person doing the pairings.
Interesting.
He was the
princess.
I like that. Yeah, so it's a term that I can't remember who I heard it off, but I really liked it. And because I was getting that role a little bit at Battle of Britain where you're sort of lurking and you're like, as long as I get that, it'll be brilliant. And you just set me up and you work all the other rounds to make sure you get a particular thing. And with the Eldar, by God, you have to do that. But if you get them into the right things, they can be really incredible. Oh, we've got Brian Sipe in as well.
Hello,
A competitive team have turned up. Lovely, Brian Sipe. Amazing to have you here. So I suggest we dive into the Omegon Alpharius rounds now. We've set the scene. Omegon, Lewis, maybe you just want to reiterate what you had in your comp. Obviously, this was more what people were playing at that particular moment, but what was your setup?
Yes. So let's start with JP himself.
Yeah.
Invasion Fleet, Tyranids, loads of Gaunts, Lictors, Exocrine, Tyrannofex, and the now infamous 6 Hive Guard. Scrivo, you were running your Dark Angel Stormlance. Azrael, Lion, and just a massive pile of Terminators and Deathwing Knights just to run screaming as fast as their little fat legs would carry them.
Yep.
Lee, the Renegade Master himself, running the Renegade Raiders. A list that Lee isn't particularly familiar with. It was Abaddon surrounded by all of his favourite big guns. And a list that Lee has decided he is never, ever going to
Yeah, Lee just likes combat too much, I'm afraid.
Yeah, he's like, I can punch anything. What is this? It sucks. Rob, the infamous Rob, taking
about to go on a spiritual journey with Drakari. Lovely. I can't wait to hear how that goes. That's gonna be exciting.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I mean, it looks amazing, but it just sucks ass, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Poor Rob.
Oh, my poor Drakari.
Play out of his skin to score any points at all in the weekend. And I mean, luckily Rob's an excellent player and even managed to get points out of the Ignite boys. But just like you looked at the matrix, you looked at his matchups like 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2. Might get 10 points here if I'm lucky. So he did very well. And then I obviously brought my towel list from behind the sofa, which is my index list.
Did you put any thought into this list at all?
No, I'm afraid I didn't. I literally I took the index list, put it into the new points, and submitted it. And that's the amount of preparation that went into
This is the first I've heard of this. That's the worst bit.
Complete with Storm Surge.
It had the Storm Surge in it, which actually, to be fair, did a grand job all weekend. And I did. Vic came up to me at the start of the first round, going, "Why have you brought a Storm Surge? None of us know what it does." I'm like, "Yeah, I've won a moral victory already."
Unagi.
And that has given the game away a little bit because you had quite a nice pairing round one, didn't you, Lewis? You had a little run in with the Ignite boys.
Yes. Right. For a start, I don't think BCP likes me very much anymore.
Did you slag it off so much?
It just pisses me off all the time. And someone's been listening. They must have reading all the complaint emails I send them as a TO about how shit it is to use and how it keeps logging me out every time I try and run an event and cancelling everything. It pisses me off. So yeah, we paired into Ignite round 1.
Nice.
That was good.
Yeah.
Do you want to take us through the ins and outs of that?
Yes. So we obviously team of chumps and has-beens, but actually still half decent players.
Hey, I'm a vice captain here. I have you know.
No, to be fair, actually, this was the round where we did do a little bit of prep.
That's good.
At least 15 minutes of prep went into this round, which was significantly more than we did for the rest. And to be honest, even without factoring in the fact that we're playing against 5 of the best players in the world, our matrix said we'd probably get about 40 points out of this list if we paired this group of
nice
actions if we'd paired it perfectly. And actually, to JP's credit, he'd never done pairings before, and he wanted to give it a go. And Scrivo gallantly stepped aside and said, "JP, knock yourself out."
God.
the pairings went exactly as we thought it would. Every single pairing we got was exactly how we planned.
I remember looking over and thinking, I think with what you had, it was probably, it was a solid set of outcomes, I think, pretty
100%.
much. Yeah.
It was a set of pairings we thought, our best set of pairings, we might get 40 points out of this. And then obviously you add in the player skill issue and the fact that 2 or 3 of us hadn't played any game. I hadn't played 40k for like 2 months beyond one practice game.
You'll have to challenge them to a rematch that's Old World, mate.
Yeah,
I think you'd have Gaylord at Old World. I think you'd smash it.
Would fuck him up. But I mean, ultimately, that the kind of player skill just comes in, doesn't it? You just never get the points as you think you're going to get on the matrix when you're playing people that good, because they don't make the mistakes that you can then exploit.
Yeah,
and if you don't play perfectly, you just get found out. But we managed to get 30 points out of them.
Yeah. I think it's actually the most points we've got out of an Ignite type team, as far as I'm aware, in a round. So I was very impressed with it. I thought you did great.
Yeah, I mean, Rob getting with his Drukari getting 4 points out of Vic
against Exorcist, going second.
Going second with the Sisters with the Exorcist, getting 4 points, amazing. I'm really happy I got 6 points out of Gaylord's Guard.
Yep.
Again, it's just a match that I had not at all played, so to get 6 points out of that, and he actually turned around to me at the end and said he was quite worried after turn 1 because I played quite aggressive. I didn't play aggressive enough, but I played quite aggressive, and he was like, "Oh, actually, okay, I think it's a game on here." If actually I'd have pushed it harder in the first turn and just gone for it, then there's a route I get maybe 10 points out of
that is the way with Guard. It is to run at them,
run screaming and hope, even as a POW player.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously we'll shout out to JP as well, because he actually beat Brian Seep in the chat. Apologies, Brian. That's a huge win out for JP.
Incredible skill for JP to get. So really well done to him.
100%. So we lost 30-70, but absolutely really happy with that. I think we could probably have finished the weekend there, and that's it. Scriv and I can leave and you guys can talk.
No.
Sorry, Scriver, how was your game?
So I went into your call, and every single thing I did, he had an answer to. And then my favourite thing was, I think it was round about round 2. I'm there, I'm oath the moment this unit, and I go, no, because the minute I do anything, that's going to just miss away. I'll put it on a thing you're not going to move, so at least I get to use oath the moment. And it was just like, the reality was I wasn't aggressive enough. Okay. He knew exactly what to do against me. He stayed back. He shot me with all the Nemesis Dread Knights, picking things up quicker than I really would have liked. Mm-hmm. If I'd pressured him earlier on, might have helped. So game 2, I think I did a bit more of that. So
okay, interesting.
But it was good learning. That was my first game with the list as well, which probably didn't help. But
for sure. Yeah, so a solid round had, and hopefully a fun round as well. You know, they're lovely lads, and I think that's a very, very impressive showing for our Omegon team.
Yeah.
Oh
no, we'll take it.
But you've got that done, right? That's it. Yeah. You know that's not going to happen again at the event once that's done. You've got that out of the way.
Sure.
And how many opportunities do you get to play into players of that caliber? Like,
exactly.
100%. So rare, isn't it? Like, unless you're going 4-0, 5-0 at events, you're not hitting those players unless you randomly pair into them. So
your odds are actually the best they're going to be at the Teams events. That's the best chance you've got of hitting them. And I think that's actually one of the appeals of the Teams events, certainly for me, is that you have a very good shot of playing some of the best teams in the UK. And it's really cool to get to do that. And you can have whole events of singles and not do that, right? because I never make it far in and out. All right, Chris, what was happening over in Alpharius land at this point?
So we drew Trash All Stars round one,
Yeah.
and just looking down their list, obviously I had some good players. I played one of their players, Alex, who's in chat. At every final round of LGT, very good players. So if you extrapolate that across the team, we know that it's going to be a good first round. It's not going to be a nice easy one by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to be one we're going to have to, come out firing. In terms of the matrix looked pretty good.
Yeah, I was relatively happy.
It was quite interesting for us because actually going into this event, the idea was we wanted a list we could put down first and try and take the light board, because that's quite a common tactic, is put down someone, then you've got a 50-50 chance of getting the light board. And so that was going to be Harley. That was the goal, because Ed, with his Grey Knight, with his Eldari, could get pinned quite often. Hence the pairing princess.
I quite often read a lot of the time, and
so
until
we
later
had to really look after him.
Yeah.
So he was very much always probably going to be second defender.
Yeah.
And so the game plan was Harley would go down first. Then we started looking at this matrix, and we're like, well, actually, it kind of just makes sense for Paul to go down first, because then he had like one bad matchup. He doesn't take that, even if it's presented to him, and he then gets to go and take something else.
Yeah.
So we had a good plan going into this. I don't know how it went because I wasn't there.
Yeah, so we'd simmed it. We simmed it the night before. We'd come to this realization, actually, okay, Harley's saved is better because it gets Harley better games later. Guard are obviously really tough, really nasty army in the meta right now. And it's better for me, Paul, and Chris to essentially do the grunt work and take all the shit out the matrix first. And then Harley and Ed can basically get a free run at something that they're going to smash. And that's what we did. So we went with Paul first, and we tried a new trick, which Paul was going to come to love, which was that we made Paul roll off for the light board because he matched into Death Guard, which was a melee matchup anyway. And if Paul won, he would take the light board. So Paul was basically getting rid of the light board so that gun armies just weren't getting on it, because people were attacking him with combat armies a lot of the time because they're afraid of, well, if they attack him with a shooting army, he then picks a heavy board, then the shooting army's not getting at him. We'll pretend that's the case on UKTC boards anyway. And heavy boards. And so Paul takes the Death Guard in this one. And then I can't remember the exact sequence of events here, but I know that Ed gets into CSM.
Which is what we wanted.
I get into Guard, which anyone who speaks to me at the moment will know Guard is my favourite thing to do. Love Guard. Tough on Guard, tough on the causes of Guard is my way of life right now. What did Harley play?
Harley played Tyranids.
Tyranids, which again, Tyranids don't like being shot massively to death by things. And then, Chris, what were you playing?
Hypercrypt Necrons.
Ooh, a teleporting derby. Nice. So, I mean, how did that go for you?
Fun. Shout out to Alex for putting up with me being super late. Basically, 15 minutes into my drive, I was like, oh, shit, I've forgotten my contact lenses and glasses. And had to drive back, and then arrived here at 9:15. And because the venue was a shit show, it had double booked itself, apparently. So therefore, there was no parking anywhere. Mm-hmm. And all the parking around was permit holders only. So I drove around for 20 minutes getting more and more stressed. I couldn't find it anywhere and thinking I was going to miss my round. I think I just literally ran to the venue, like dying, arrived there, and got to play Necrons, and Alex was absolutely lovely. We had a good game. This was probably my best matchup, I think. I had never played it before, but just looking at his output, I was like, it's 2 Catan and Monolith. I can't really kill those, but I can kill all the other stuff. I can out-primary him, and it went pretty well. It was one of those things where I kept being like, I'm going to be... I think it's like a 12, it's like a 12, it's like a 13, it's like a 13, maybe a bit of 14, just as I kept denying the primary and getting to lock down mine. And it ended up pretty good. So, that ended up as an 18 too, which was certainly not expected. Ed put his theory to the test, and he managed to beat CSM 13-7.
Yeah, and this was actually very good because he came away from this game with ideas for how to make this even better. Right? Okay. In theory, he was happy enough with it. I was worried about this one. I'm not going to lie. I can see some elements to CSM that can make Elder Life quite scary. But what Ed was doing with that Eldar list was playing it essentially flawlessly, and it turns out when you do that, it's very, very good.
And what he was basing on was the fact that obliterators make this a bit of a harder matchup.
Yeah, definitely.
And he's still able to win 13-7. And so, therefore, if he's not playing into obliterators, he's even more confident.
Yeah,
which was
100%.
a very big bonus. Harley beat the Tyranids 17-3.
Yep.
Paul ran at the Death Guard, punched them for a while, and then ended up drawing 10-all.
Yep.
I think it was kind of one of those lock the jail the Death Guard, then they kind of gradually push back out.
Yeah.
You meet somewhere in the middle. And then you had a fun time into...
So I got to play Josh on the guard. We'd actually practiced this matchup in a week or two ago because I wanted to get reps into guard on these boards. So I played against guard again, played against Josh before. And the two big events in the guard GSC game are the first drop, because if they can't use Gaunt's Ghosts to get down first, then you're going to have a chunk of the board that's got nasty things hiding in it very close to their lines. And I got first drop there. And then first turn is also big because then you can apply that pressure. And I basically just didn't let Josh do anything except try and defend himself for the entire game. Terraform is like, if you wrote missions for me, Terraform is a me mission, right? It's like a mission for people who love trash and being a pain in the arse and blocking things, and you just get to put them in their own deployment zone. And I was on for the 20, but then Josh's Rogal Dawn exploded and ruined it. And so thanks for that, Josh. But lovely game. Josh is one of my favourite people to play 40k against. He's so lovely. We had a really, really good time. And I enjoyed eating all the little guardsmen up. So that was really, really fun. Hello, Nogel Matthew. Lovely to have you in the chat, mate. I hope you're doing well. So that was a solid round for us. I think it's one of those where you kind of feel the results are going the right way. We felt like pairings worked the right way, and we'd spotted a blueprint. And this is, I think if there's a lesson for next time, it's that if we'd practiced this a little bit before in the run-in, we'd have known the kinds of patterns we'd be trying to do with the armies and what kinds of roles they were going to end up in. And this was something we were sort of finding out and building on in the event. But I think certainly for a couple of us, I think mainly me and Paul, to be honest, how we built and played the armies would be a little bit different if we'd known the roles we were going to regularly get into. But that's really useful learning, and it's actually amazing to be able to see it in that way. And shout out to Paul in the chat, our lightboard hero, our unexpected Space Wolves lightboard hero. So that's round one.
Just the Legion, might as well cover. Legion played the Emperor's Right Nut.
Amazing.
And
they won the event.
They had T-shirt as well. They had T-shirts with like the Emperor. Oh, anyway, it's good. It's good.
So cool.
Legion drew 49-51. And in that round, Jack Doherty with his Admech beat Tyranids 12-8. Jack Asher with his Gene Stealer Cult drew with Death Guard 10-all. Jamie East with his Votan lost 9-11 to Chaos Demons. Alex Chancellor, who could be here right now telling us all his glory, with his guard. He probably predicts he's playing into Drakari. I assume he predicted it as a small loss.
That's what he normally does.
And he won 16-4. Then Lee took with his orcs. He took on Eldari after I gave him advice in the car, saying, "I think that's good for you," and he lost 2-18. So, sorry about that.
Turns out Fire Prisms really like Gorkanauts, unfortunately.
Anyway. Sorry about that. So they drew 49-51.
Yeah. Excellent start. So there's a few big games already. What happens next for Team Omegon, Lewis?
Team Omegon get drawn into the Wooden Spoon Warriors.
Oh, that sounds like another tough challenge.
Slightly misleading name, actually. The name
Trade Description Act should be involved.
Actually, because they're a group of half decent players, so can't say fairer than
and
that.
B-Mob.
Taking shots. I see.
Nice. And fundamentally, this was a relatively comfortable win for Omegon this time around. I think basically we outpaired them.
Yeah.
We ended up with their Tyranid 10-10 list into JP's Tyranids, and then it comes down to who's a better Tyranid player.
Yeah, I know where I'd put my money on that one.
Yeah, there's not many people on the planet that would put above JP in terms of playing the Tyranids. So, unfortunately for Ross on their team, that didn't end particularly well. Lee did very horrible things to their Drukari player, who tried his best.
Max.
Scrivo did infinitely better than his first round by
Yeah.
holding the Death Guard to a close loss, as did Rob's Drukari versus the Necrons. And this is another area where the pairings didn't quite go right for the Wooden Spoon Warriors. They let my Tau go into the Chaos Knights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
that will do
Chaos
it.
Knights.
Yeah.
If you're playing Tau and you are entirely reliant on 5-up invulnerable saves, you are not going to have an amazing time when they don't quite go off, especially when both of my hammerheads, I think it was JP that was watching my first turn, both of my hammerheads rolled the 6 for devastating wounds, followed by a 6 for the number of wounds. So 2 railgun shots just annihilate 2 Chaos
my
Knights in the first
goodness.
turn. I was like, they've never done this
Amazing.
before.
It was cackling. It was terrifying. I was like, I've just finished deploying and Lewis is cackling. What's going on?
I did a lot of cackling, as anyone
good
who
to
played me can
cackle.
tell. I wasn't taking the
good.
event particularly seriously.
It's underrated.
But that was good. We ended up at 65-35 win
Yeah,
there, so a relatively comfortable one there. But actually, I think if their pairings had been slightly more in their favour, I think that would have been a much closer round. So
Sure. And Scrivo, I'm conscious
Yeah.
BMob's in the chat, mate. So how was this game?
So this was an interesting one. I got given the choice of taking the Death Guard or leaving the Necrons for Rob.
Okay.
So in our theory, we were like, it felt that Drukari might have a better game slightly into the Necron list. And I was like, okay, Death Guard, not amazing, but it started off really strong. So kind of, I was asked, I think round 2, like battle round 2, people were asking, how's it going? And I was like, it's probably 12, 13 in my favour. I then got into the meat of the army because I'd really kind of pushed in. I got really, really dedicated in. I then got into the back half of the army, which was basically Mortarian's friends just going, you're -1 damage, are you? That's cute. How about we just dunk you?
They don't care about that even a bit.
Yeah. And then there was a couple of situations where, like, I think one of his lawnmowers was left on a wound and it was a pain in the arse. And the jump back intercessors ran away. And it was just like, it was just scrapping. And it got to the point where at the end, there was a few kind of draws for both of us where it went one way, didn't go the other way, and it looked like it was getting almost to 10-10 material. And then at the end, we kind of scored it up, and it suddenly was a 12-8. And I was like, but it was one of those games where I just went, this is great fun. And as much as I'm joking about Ben being not the best player on their team, he really caught me sort of turn 3, just kind of been able to just push back into me. I was like, oh, I'm in trouble here.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about that matchup where maybe I stay back a bit more after the initial swing, which is tough, right? Because you still want to score in the middle. But yeah, it was good. It was really good fun.
Awesome.
But,
And yeah, Death Guard, I think low key on the up. Definitely having a
resilient.
decent time in this meta. They've got a little bit more going for them. And they do like these UKTC boards where you get to kind of wade into the middle and get started, really, I think, definitely. All right, very well done. Chris, it's Purge the Foe. It's the Crucible board. How are Alpharius feeling at this moment in time?
Oh, we're so excited. And then we see we have drawn Mind Goblins.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Now, obviously, Mind Goblins, #1 UKTC team from last year.
They're a big deal, those boys.
Kind of a big deal, those guys. They had a lot of teams there. And we played into Mind Goblin D's Nuts.
deep lore fact, that is actually why they're called what they're called.
Yeah, I believe that is the original origin.
So I think looking at this, what we felt was, in terms of their lists, there were 5 good singles players taking 5 good singles lists.
Yes.
But wasn't necessarily that cohesive aspect of...
Not like we'd cooked up between 9 and 12 on Sunday.
Exactly. We nailed it. And I think, it was just kind of... We were kind of like, maybe because of that, I think our matrix was quite decent into that. Yeah. And we had a good matrix. So it was just enacting that. And so therefore, I think we did exactly the same thing again, led with Paul.
We did.
And
that became the done thing. Paul goes down.
Paul got the joy of World Eaters, so they're going to run
against the wonderful Adam Parmenter, who I've got a lot of time for.
Yeah, absolutely.
There were some really nice people on this team.
Very good player, Adam. So that was that. And then what else happened? Well, In a shocking turn of events, Ed was our pairings princess again.
He was.
He went down second.
And he'd got the taste for CSM, and then there was a CSM list with no obliterators in. So he was like, I would very much like to try it again and have a go at that.
This was quite funny because he was playing Spence, and Spence the previous round had played Eldari and won like 19-1. So we looked at that going and went, I bet he wants to play Eldari.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Harley played into Kadra Tau. I got Orc Horde.
Yeah, Josh Cowlin.
Like, I don't know. I guess I can just try and kill it and not.
It's purge the foe and their melee army, right? So that was always going to keep it even.
I'll keep it close. And then Tom. Unfortunately, Tom, you played army didn't particularly want to.
Yeah, so I got big chaos demons on Purge the Foe with my tons of little units. And Chaos Demons was one of the ones I'd originally had them in my matrix as amber, and I was like, I don't like this. There's too many ambers. I'm going to pop it up to a grey and pretend it's okay, and we'll just hope it doesn't happen. And then, of course, it happens. God, the lad's name escapes me. I don't know if you've got it there. He's a really nice guy. James Ball, that's it. I've played him before. We had a really close game at Beachhead, and he beat me in exactly the GSC Demons game in 9th edition. So we played before, and we had a great game then. And yeah, I went first on Purge the Foe into several huge monsters, and it was a sad time. It was a very tough game for me.
Yeah, and I think this round definitely early on, for the first couple of battle rounds, going up and down the line, it was very much... we don't really know.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel great. It feels drawish. It felt drawish across the board.
Yeah.
And Harley was next to him, and he was like, I could push, but I don't know whether I should. And I was just like, it's looking like a draw. Just go for it.
Yeah.
Because we kind of were backing Ed to get a win, a decent sized win there. So that if it goes wrong, you've got that to balance out the draw, and actually if things do go wrong elsewhere, this could end up a drawn round anyway. Because I had like 100 orcs.
Your board state looked scary, like very scary.
So it was kind of like mine could easily backfire. I mean, Purge the Foe mitigates that to an extent.
It does.
If I played any other mission, it would have been even scarier, I think. So we were just like, Harley, just push. And then I think like a turn later, he was like, well, something just happened, which means there's just been a 17-point swing. And I was like, oh, God, this isn't good. However, let's quickly move over to Ed's board, where Harley had gone over and been like, point to the number on the board, what you think. And Spence had seen what he pointed to, and Spence had gone, you think this is a 15? There's no way this is a 15. And Ed's like, no, it is. It's not a 15. And Spence moved out and killed some stuff. I think killed a couple of War Walkers and some Rangers and everything else.
War Walkers, which are definitely not there to get all the tanks to come out.
Yeah, exactly. At which point, Ed killed 5 of the CFM tanks in response. And Spence was like, oh, shit. And you know what? Spence was absolutely right. It wasn't a 15. It was a 20. So shout out to Ed there for.
And Spence took it very well, to be fair to him. And they had a lovely chat about it afterwards. And Ed explained exactly why what had happened.
And I think and we've had this conversation in our general 6+ chat, is that yes, if you play this list incredibly well, it's a very, very good teams list into certain matchups. If you're just a half-decent player, you probably won't get the same results. It's a very, very hard list to use. You just don't have anything.
There is no redundancy at all. Like there's no I lost this at the wrong time.
You make
I've
a
got
mistake
one.
and you just lose, right?
Yeah.
So, and we'll see a common trend here with Ed, but he did play exceptionally well.
I think he hit the form. That's I say Lee Church has been this player for us many times. Like you get a player hits that first couple of games, does really well, and then they're singing for the rest of the event, right? They want the matchups, they're hungry, they know what they need to do. and Ed was very much our heavy hitter for this event, and he nailed it. And if
Yeah,
you
he
want to
nailed
find
that.
out how and why, State of Play Eldari will be out very soon, and he'll give you all the secret tricks, and then people like me can try it and achieve much less, and I can't wait.
Well, you can't because he's got your Wraith Knight.
Oh
So,
yeah, sorry, he has got my
yeah.
Wraith Knight, which he did not ask if he could take home, but he has taken home. Love you, Ed. Look after Big Dusty.
So Paul beat the World Eaters 16-4, which was
Yep.
really good. That was way
That was a
above
razor
Matrix.
tight game as well, and then he was able to flip it out, I think.
Yeah, so to get a big win like that, way above the Matrix, is awesome. Tom, yours was a 7-13.
Yeah, mine was a 7. As soon as the Demons go second here, he's got guns. I don't have guns. He's got big things. I don't have. I've got a hold of trash. So I would say this is probably 8-12-ish on baseline. Me killing and holding, him killing more, etc., and winning at the end. But actually, to James's credit, he got more than that, and he got more than that because of Beasts of Flipping Nurgle. And Beasts of Nurgle, for the uninitiated, heal back to full if you don't kill them in a phase. And James saved these until about round 3, when I'd committed my big melee bricks off hunting Lords of Change. I'd killed Be'lakor. I was hunting the big things. He had a bunch of big things. Suddenly, I've got 3 Beasts of Nurgle running around in my lines. I don't have anything that can kill any of them at any point. And I'm just like, oh no. And they start cuddling my Ridge Runners. They start cuddling my Neophytes. I can't kill them. And that means that I end up in this position where he's tied me up by the end of I think by the end of 4, I'm tied up. So I just can't score cards from that point. So I drop off on the secondaries as well. He's already got me a lock on the primary. He uses the Beast of Nurgle beautifully here. Absolutely frustrates me. So it was beautiful. Really impressed. He played it incredibly well. We had a really fun game. My highlight was the Patriarch doing 12 damage to Be'lakor turn 1. That gave me some hope. I was like,
yeah, you came over.
I'm
We're like,
yeah.
Be'lakor,
I've got it.
and I was like, sweet. And then he comes back
It
over
felt
and he's
good.
like,
I was like, unfortunately, killing Be'lakor did not help me enough at that. But it was amazing. Thank you, Nightbot, for liking the stream. Really hope you're enjoying it. Obviously, we do this every week, so do come back. Really love
That's
to
our
have you
bot.
here.
Tom.
Oh, is that our bot? Fuck's sake. Nightbot, you fooled me. I thought that was someone saying they liked us. Please like the stream, guys. That's what the robot wants.
yeah,
Joshua Cowlard wants it on record that your Dread Knights are shit, Chris. Should we talk about that whilst I emotionally recover?
I'll just talk. Yeah, so Harley, he did his push.
Yep.
It went. I don't think it quite went according to plan. He still managed to get the 12-8, so that was really good. Then I was playing other Josh Callard. Shout out to Josh. Really, really fun.
Oh, he's a babe. I love Josh.
What a hero. And this was like 5 trucks and loads of stuff in the trucks, and it's just going to run at you. And I was like, it's okay because Dread Knights kill trucks nice and easily, so I can demech him. We'll be fine. Josh called the War turn 2. Because I'd gone first, I just hid like a massive pussy and just like I just don't want the War to do anything, and managed to handle that quite well. The problem was that the Dread Knights decided to have a bit of an off day. I say day, they were utter shite for 4 games out of 5 this weekend. This one, they really, really excelled. Exactly, Alex. Just like how they killed rhinos. I mean, I can't. Oh man! Like just every time they activated, it was like, okay, cool, sweet. Nothing's happened. There was one truck on 3 wounds, which I charged. I had to CP reroll a hit. Still did literally no damage to this truck. Then I charged another truck. This one did roll well. I got through 4d6 plus 1 damage. Only did 9 damage. They have 10 wounds. Yeah, that was 4 extra points I would have got on bringing it down, and taken away 2 resources, and meant my Dread Knights weren't trapped in combat, so they couldn't miss the way. It was like, oh god.
You clearly didn't believe in what you were doing.
Oh god, it was bloody awful. The good thing was, I put the paladins in the back corner. The idea being to like really try and stretch him thin. And Josh did absolutely the right thing, which was just charge him with 2 trucks at either end and just be like, ha, you're stuck in combat. But what it did mean was that gradually over the next couple of turns, they just got kills as things kind of tried to hold them up, and they gradually got to his home field. But yeah, really, really fun game. It ended, what's going to become quite a trend here, ended 9-11. So yeah, I went down to a 9-11. But hey, my Matrix had said a 7-9. If you hear us talking about colours, Generally, our colours for Alpharius were the kind of what England have been doing, which is a red is don't do it. Amber is kind of like you're going to get up to about 6 points.
Yep.
The most common colours were grey, which is a 7 to 9, and then a black, which is like an 11 to or 10, 11, 12, right? Or something like that. And then a yellow is like, we're going to do well, and green, I'm going to smash it.
And our general strategy was drawish in most places. Guard and Eldar get big win. That was generally how it was going, with the added bonus that if you got me into guard, I would castrate them as well. And that was kind of where we were at. And that was a solid round for us, I think, in the end.
54-36.
Yeah, and the comp worked out great. And shout out to my gums, they were lovely. We had a really good time. Lots of fun.
And then 6 plus Legion, they got off the mark. They drew in the last round. They won 71-29 into the bearded battle dorks. Lee flipped it around. He was angry. He 20-0 Tyranids with his orcs. Jamie East beat Black Templars 11-9 with his Votan. Jack's Admech beat Orcs 12-8. Jack Asher's GSC beat CSM 14-6. And Alex with his Guard, another small win of 14-6 into Necrons.
Very, very nice. So that is most of day one complete, but there is one more round to go. So what was happening over in Omegon Land, Lewis?
Here we go. So we got paired into a team called Courteously Optimistic. I don't know how to pronounce it, but there we are. Let's just say they were a couple of beers in by the time we approached them. And they approached us by saying they'd had a surprise win in round 2. They had fully expected to go and lose all of their games.
Okay.
Are they a Black Crow team?
They must be. I think there were a lot of core puns among the Black Crow teams.
It was the foundation, the core of.
So it's cautiously optimistic, is what you've got there.
Yeah.
Right, I'm with you. Good.
Exactly.
So that was just so.
And I believe there were only. I think Black Crow made up 38 of the 67 teams. That's my understanding. And they're aiming to bring 48 next time. Yeah.
I think 2 of the teams actually flipped their allegiance midway through the games.
You have some bonus 6++ teams then, do we?
Sorry, you go, Liz. You go.
No, I was going to say a shout out to Aaron from the Black Crow team. After round 3, I had some major car drama getting home, so Harley very kindly on Saturday morning drove 45 minutes out of his way to come pick me up from Essex and take me to the venue.
He was literally delirious throughout the entirety of that round, but we'll get to that.
He'd got up at like 5 a.m. to come and get me, so thank you, Harley, to you. But then actually to save Harley having to do it on the way home, a couple of the Black Crow guys live in Norwich, which on their way back to Essex they drive past the Saffrons. So when they hit Cambridge, so they very kindly took me home and unsuccessfully converted me to Black Crows. So I changed.
They're good lads.
No, they're really nice. I really get on with Aaron well. He's a lovely gent. So worth checking out their shows as well. They're doing some great stuff on the old YouTubes.
Absolutely.
But yes, so we played into Cautiously Optimistic. We did overall get a 92-8 win. So would you call this?
So their optimism might have been misplaced.
Slightly optimistic. Although I would say Joe, their Tau player, he won Best Painted overall for the most incredible Tau list I've ever seen. It was completely converted from Old World Lizardmen.
I saw that. Yeah, it looked amazing.
So he had like his hammerhead was like Bastillodon with like a railgun, like leather strapped to the top of it.
Oh, so good.
His Storm Surge was Krondis the dragon with the actual gun on his shoulder. It was so cool.
So good.
It was off the chain good. Worth checking out. I don't know if he's got any online. I'm sure he has an online presence, but just genuinely incredible. But unfortunately, Joe paired into Rob with his Drukhari, and Joe had, I think, spent quite a lot of time painting his army and not a lot of time learning how to use it. So the Storm Surge he decided to deploy on the line in front of Rob's Scourges.
Oh god.
Rob went first, and 1 unit of Scourges killed the Storm Surge.
Yeah, that is how that goes. Oh, mate.
So that rather summed it up slightly. Rob's Drukhari 19-1 to the Tau. JP had the dream pairing of his Tyranids into 3 big Imperial Knights, who got 20-0'd. Scrivo did horrible things to Ant and his Marines by 20-0ing them as well, which Scrivo's already mentioned. Lee had some fun in some Death Guard, got 17 points off them. And I played into Eldari. Now, when I was running this Tau list last time, this shows how long it's been since I've used this Tau list. Eldar were the horrific thing in the meta at the time.
Yeah, there are 20 million people left and right. Thank
20
God that's
people
over.
left. And my entire list at the time was built to just get 10 points off Eldar. And it still did that admirably. I got 16 points off this. And I don't know how it never happened first time around, but I worked out the Wraith Knights don't have an invulnerable save when the Storm Surge did 48 damage to it in one shot.
What?
That's a catastrophic activation. Yeah, I was going to say, you do want to fire and fade that.
Well, he was firing fading it every turn, but then didn't have enough CP to do it in turn 4. And unfortunately, with Cowie on Tau, that's when their 6s explode.
Now you're cooking.
So, yeah.
R.I.P. Wraith
well for Steve and his Eldari. But great game, lovely group of guys. Obviously, were definitely on the fun side of things. They had a couple of really stunning armies. They were so much fun to play, and actually, they're the sort of people that I just love playing against because their passion for what they're doing is amazing. And actually, you can see as a group of mates, they're just having the best time ever. And if I could have half as much fun as them, then I'll be a happy bloke.
100%. Yeah, amazing. We've got a few more people in the chat. I want to shout out. Harley has turned up. Lovely to have you here, Harley. Well done this weekend. Lewis Chapman says not cautious enough, and I think that's right. And we've got an incredibly OG shout out for Neophyte Kevin. I don't know if anyone remembers the bat reps me and David.
Hello, I'm Neophyte Kevin.
GSD versus Tyrannus, where I was doing some really silly voices for a couple of neophytes and interviewing them about the match at the start. And I'd completely forgotten about that until Gastronauticon's comment there, but that is wonderful. So we're going to have to do a GSC bat rep whilst they're actually relevant, and I'll play Host of Ascension and I'll get Neophyte Kevin back up, and we can talk through him because that's where you want it if you're going to play Neophytes. And I'm not going to talk to Nightbot again because I've learned my lesson. I understand how bots work now. It's fine. Welcome. I'm really good at technology. So, round 3, Chris, what's going on in Alpharius camp?
So we're like, right, come on, let's just get one nice final round and finish the day 3-0. And we draw a team called Sanguine Spanners.
Yes.
Now, this isn't a team who are particularly, let's say, well known, I don't think, on the circuit. However, I had heard of them in terms of, I always see their name at the event.
I've seen the names around.
And we started looking at the players and that, and the players we knew were like, oh, they're actually really good players.
Yeah.
Now, I think round 3 has traditionally been one where we do drop off a bit, we make a mistake, and that's something goes wrong. At the last event, this was where we drew with a really good team who actually we should have beaten into. Just one round went badly for us. And this is probably the round where pairings didn't go right. And that's because we made an assumption. Now, sometimes when you get a team maybe who's more confident into a team that's less confident, the less confident team will have to do something different with their pairings or the way they play their games.
Yeah.
Not the most recent WTC, but the one before that. When Spain played versus England, Spain frontlined everything and went, well, we're probably going to lose anyway. But if we go first in these games, we suddenly have got a chance. And they managed to get the draw. And that is one way you can try and mitigate a team disparity. Another way you can do it is taking the mirror.
Yeah, you can.
Because as soon as you start taking the mirror, who knows what happens?
Those pairings wide open.
And a year or two ago when we played Dice Down did exactly what we assumed against Sanguine Spanner, which was they won't take the mirror. And we shoved Lee Churchwood straight into that David Gaylord guard mirror.
And he went first.
We go first. It might be okay. And Lee went first and killed a shit ton of stuff.
And that's where we got 10 of our points from.
Yeah. That was it. I don't know whether that was their thinking, but that's what happened because the first 2 pairings that came about were Space Wolves into Space Wolves and GSC into GSC. And you're a bit like, oh, this is a bit. Because
Space Wolves, I can't speak for, but GSC in our matrix has a big old flip written on it. And flip, as we'll get to, means you are rolling a dice on how that's going to go. But we'll come back to
rolling
that.
4-ups, Tom. What's the
we'll
chances, eh?
come back to that. How else did the pairings go, Chris?
Because we should also mention this was take and hold, right? So hold 1, hold 2, hold
Lots
3.
of primary.
Going second is rather helpful in this.
Yeah.
So we've got a Wolves mirror. We've got a GSC mirror. We've got Harley getting to play into Rec Cadre yet again. We're like, well, you've played it, mate. You'll be fine. Get over yourself. And Ed into Tyranids, which we see as like a yellow-green, like should be a good win. And then I play into Admech because even though no one really plays Admech and they never have a high win percentage, no one ever actually wants to play into Admech.
I hate playing Admech.
And this was the first of 2 games in a row, having also done it at LGT, where I got to play into a corner deployment map where they have got a no 12-inch deep strike guy. And I did it against Ben Jones with 5 infiltrators. I did it against Admech here. I did it on the Sunday morning as well. And all of them on quarters. And it is a bit of a pain in the arse. And I played into Callum, who's a really good player. And he was playing Rad Zone Admech. Now, I know you're all sat there thinking, I'm really worried about the Rad Zone Admech matchup. So I've got some advice for you guys, okay? Because I did it wrong. Basically, what they do at the start of the battle is they say, you pick each unit and you either say, I'll accept being battle shocked and I'll take D3 mortals on a 5-up. Or you go, I don't want to be battle shocked. I'll take D3 mortals on a 3-up. And you go through each unit. So I'm like, well, I don't want to take the D3 mortals. I can't afford to do that. So I basically let most of my army be battle shocked. The only ones I don't are my 5 strikes who are supposed to be sticking my home field and my Drago's unit because they've got a 4-up, feel no pain against mortals, and an apothecary, so I don't care. Anyway, he gets first turn. No, I got first turn. And he starts like moving his stuff around. And no, sorry, I had first. No, yeah, I'm wrong. I went second, so I did have the advantage here. But he moves out his rangers to the middle, stickies the objective for his scout move, and then moves back. And then I'm like, I can't unsticky those because all of my stuff's battle shocked. And then I'm like, and I don't have, if I draw action cards next turn, I can't do any of the actions. Shit. So
quite a powerful little detachment is Rad Zone.
Yeah, so as and when you run into this really common matchup, guys, don't just auto battle shock your army. Okay, that would be my advice to you. As it was, I did manage to play around it because I had to pick up Drago's unit, and they were always going to go a particular place. And I picked up the 5 strikes that were supposed to be sticking the home, who then just ran out to the middle or landed on the middle, spread out. They were all fine. I then did make a misplay. I should have misted them away. Instead, I was like, I'm going to be tricksy and make you bring out all your tanks to kill my my 5 guys. And then he brought out the tanks, killed the 5 guys, and I was like, I actually can't do anything about this anyway. So I didn't play it quite right. I think he played really well. And my game was the last to finish, which was a shame. Because
it was a shame, wasn't it?
That led to quite a lot of stress.
Yes.
Ed was not stressed.
He was just vibing.
I went over halfway. I went over halfway, and Ed was like, this bloody Norn just won't die. It's just rah, rah, rah. And I was like, oh dear. Anyway, as per se, Ed got 20-0, so he killed the Tyranid. Big bugs this. Oh, well, I suppose Ed got another 20-0. Shocking. Then
that's 2 20-0s, guys. Let's see how many more he gets across his head with his Eldar list.
Harley is generally fine, I think. He's playing for that small win.
He's found Rec Cadre quite tricky to push into just because of the sheer. It does have a lot of damage, right? I think there's a fear there where you don't want to overextend and get rolled. And actually, we found it wasn't as easy for Guard to get a big win out of that as we'd have liked. But he did. He was in control of the game, wasn't he?
Yep. And then we had Ed. So he gets a 12-8.
Yep.
And then we got Paul.
Got 2 mirrors.
And Tom. Now, Paul it hasn't quite gone right. I don't know the specific. Oh, George is literally in the chat. You played Paul, George.
George, let us know what happened in the Paul game. But I know Paul went first for one, so that makes it tricky on taking hold.
And I think, did we take the light board on that again?
We did, and I
And
believe George
and-
had some guns,
and he
which
had
made
some
which made it a bit different for Paul
Oops.
to the. Whoops!
So,
Didn't
not
see
bad.
those gladiators in there. Whoopsie doops.
So
Was it two lancers, wasn't it?
It was two lancers. I'm always like,
Yeah.
oh, they got one gun. It's like, no, they do have other guns as well. Actually,
so
unfortunate.
that ended,
And that was a recurring issue with our comp that we learned for next time as well, which is that whole Paul takes the light. Well, it worked for us at this event. I think actually we didn't need me and Paul both as like a cute melee army if one of us was going to be doing that most of the time. Actually, what we wanted there was a more take-all-comers. Probably both of us, to be honest, just because of how we were falling in the pairings.
Yeah.
And that's probably what we'd do next time.
Yeah. So that ended 13-7.
Yeah.
Now I'm playing the Space Wolves to George. So I'm kind of like in a really like tight game. It's not quite going right. I'm just losing slightly too much stuff, and he's not presenting. So the problem with Grey Knights is you have to put multiple things, like especially tanks out. You have to put multiple things out to try and kill something. And then he had so many tanks that he just blast me back. And there was a world. Well, I'm like turn 3, and I'm like, I've got these 2 Dreadnoughts. I don't know where to put them because as soon as they go out, and maybe there's a chance they kill a tank, but then they just both die. And basically, it comes back that we need 16 points to win the round.
Yeah.
And there's Tom and myself
Yeah.
to go. So we both need 8. And I'm predicting around a 7 or an 8 at that point.
Yeah.
I have no idea how Tom's game is going.
And neither does Tom.
So yeah.
And that is I have loved playing GSC the last few months, especially the Bruise Surge, because it's so strong and it can do these incredible things, and you get these wonderful. I love armies that just knock someone out, right? And it's got that for days, and it's a lot of fun. What you cannot do is predict what the fuck is going to happen in a game, because you don't know when things are coming back, you don't know what's coming back, you don't know how your charges are going, etc., etc. And there are all these little moments that can be about 6 or 7 points of difference. Now, I played against Sam Parker-Hulley. We had played before, and when we played before, it was a 195 win to me, absolute classic Votan versus Salamanders. Skill-wise, very good player, really talented player, and he's a tough opponent. And in this game, I went first, so again, it's the same situation of there's an endgame swing, Sam should win on the endgame swing if he just keeps it tight in place, right, on a generous take and hold. So I play very aggressively and try and take up space. And I think I probably pushed the wrong flank. At the start, I'm entertaining visions of actually breaking right through him on his right side, getting his home objective and screening out half the board and pushing out from there. If I can actually do that, even with stuff coming back later, I'm in a much better position. And I can't achieve that same effect pushing him all the way across his line, right? So if I make it and I can corner off that side of the board, it's perfect and it works. I don't make it, I get held up. Sam uses his resources really well, stops me just outside his home objective, is able to get some reinforcements on there, and it doesn't work, right? It's like trying to push through to Berlin or some shit. I don't quite get there. I run out of puff. And Sam then brings his resources in late game, gets the best of me in some trades. I'd failed a couple of charges in the early pushing, didn't quite get my connects into his aberrant, so he was swinging at mine, and then my fight on deaths weren't doing enough damage in reply. So he just out-trades me, out-muscles me, and rolls to a win at the end. And I think it ends up being 14-6. And all credit to Sam. He's been playing GSC since the book came out, which is more than I can say. I'm more of an opportunist than Sam. And I think when we played last time, there was nothing in it, and I took the win. And I think this time, if I would actually say on play, I suspect even if it's the other way round, I think he probably still wins the game. I felt like he understood the matchup and played it better than me. Took less risks, grew into the game better than I did. I was trying to take big swings. I was trying to perhaps overcompensate for the situation I was in. But I think you could really feel how well he understood and had played the shit out of his list. And he was using it's the neophytes. He had these 265 points of neophytes. He was using them relentlessly to be really annoying, blocking into things, intervening into things. And they're one of those units, if you don't kill it, it just regens back most of its models. So it's really annoying in the right circumstances. So yeah, all credit to Sam. Fantastic game. Really, really fun as well. I really like him. He's a good guy. And he fully deserved to win that game.
So the message comes across that I need 10 points for us to win the round.
Yeah.
And the clock is ticking down. There's very much like 5 minutes left for us to play the entirety of Battle Round 5. and we're surrounded by like everyone.
It's stressful when that happens, isn't it?
It's quite an intense thing when everyone is just round the board waiting for you to play. And anyway, I've got bottom of turn. He's been getting some primary advantages. We look at it, and I've had to basically. There was this one moment, I think it was turn 4, where I was like, right, I'm just going to have to take the beating now. And these breachers, the breachers who'd sat behind a wall for 4 turns the entire game, like not let them shoot anything, they unload into the paladins and they kill like 1. I'm like, yes, okay, cool. Yeah, baby, 3-up save. And what I'd also done was I was just in desperate. He put 2 tanks on the objective, and I was like, oh, I could miss my Terminators more onto the objective, but it will expose them. Now, a normal person would go, I'll just miss 1 out. He will have 1 activation to shoot the Terminators. I die, and then I res back onto the objective, and that'll secure it, and that'll get me that 5 primary points. I decided not to do that. I decided to put 2 Terminators on the objective, which was a silly decision because what happened was the breaches that couldn't shoot the paladins shot the Terminators, killed 1. He then fired a tank, and this tank with 6 shots hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, going 2s or 3s, going into a 4-up invuln, killed the remaining 4 Terminators. Which probably shouldn't happen, especially when it's D6 damage and I've got 3 wounds. But that actually was a 5-point primary swing. Now, why is that a problem? Well, we come to my final turn and I'm like, right, so if I hold 3 objectives, that's 15 points. And if I need to get 10 on my secondary cards, I get the draw. I lose by 5 and I get the draw. So I'm like, okay, right, well, let's see what happens here. Because even holding the 3 isn't necessarily going to happen. I draw Area Denial and I draw Secure No Man's Land. Those are 2 5-point cards. And I'm like, okay, we've got this. Then I look at the board and in my head, because it's hidden supplies, there's the 2 in the top left and 2 in the bottom right kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can only interact with these 2 on the bottom right. There's no way I can move up, kill these rangers who are just triggering defending area denial and get back to my 2 objectives that I need to hold. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, shit, there's just no way to do it. And I have to say, sorry, mate, there's no way I can do it. It's going to have to be a 9-11, and the round finishes 54-46 to us, so we miss out by 1. Immediately, Paul goes, why didn't you just move the paladin up to the middle of the board, charge the rangers, and hold the 2 middle objectives? And I was like, because I did not think of it. And he goes, oh, fair enough. And then at dinner, it's like, Chris, why didn't you just move the paladins up? I'm like, fuck off. Now,
this is why it sucks being the last game, because you're not there going, well, why didn't you win the Space Force Miracle?
Yeah. Now, what I will say is that the sequence of events that would have had to have happened for this to work are my paladins move up. My paladins are stretched really thin, right?
Yeah.
They then get overwatched by something. I could lose something. I've then got to make a 6-inch charge. If I roll the 6, I've got like 3 or 4 guys in. I have to roll a massive charge to get this long line of guys in. Then I've got to kill the rangers. I believe he said he has a 4-up invulnerable strat. The odds of me actually killing that unit are incredibly. If it's a 4-up invuln strat, which he has, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm just not like my line was like stretched so thin to try and cover everything. The odds of it actually working were very remote. The thing that just really pissed me off was I didn't think of it. In my head, I just got fixated on these are the 2 objectives I need to hold. Not the 2, it's not any that I couldn't hold that otherwise. Didn't think of it. So I didn't get to play to my outs, and that's what annoyed me a bit. But I think big shout out to Sang with Spanners. They went undefeated at this
Yeah.
event.
A strong team, really strong team. Yeah, I think
And we were 1 point off going.
And we got thrown in the pairings. This was the only round, I think, where pairings didn't go as anticipated or thought out, and that's because they took a couple of mirrors and they styled out and out muscled both me and Paul in mirrors. Which, frankly, if you're beating me and Paul on our factions, you're great. There's no in and out about it. It's just they fully deserved to be in the position they were in, and we didn't quite get there in the end. So it's tough to take, but I think I didn't. It wasn't one of those. I was a little bit disappointed. I don't know whether it was because I played Sam and I felt like I'd been completely well matched. I was totally happy with a draw, right? I was, especially considering I'd lost and my teammates had bailed me out. I was like, you know what, this is fine. We'll take this. Let's go and have some pizza. Everyone's happy.
I was pretty flat after it.
Well, when you're the last one, it sucks. I've been there. I remember with the Irish lads at Element when I was the last one there playing, and you're like, oh, we're this close. It's the worst. It's the worst.
That's true. So yeah, that was a draw. Legion in this game played into Fire and Dice Tiger's Eye, and they lost 58-42. Jack Doddy's Admech beat their Eldari 13-7. Jack Ash's GSC lost Christo's Tyranids 6-14. Alex did get his small win with his guard 12-8 into Space Marines. Jamie beat Angus, which is on guard, which is
that's actually a
good win.
Yeah.
Good win. Angus, good player. 1-11-9.
Jamie East has been very good with Votan for quite a while now.
And he's doing really well, isn't he? And then Lee didn't get to play Tyranids, so unfortunately he lost 20-0 to Sam. Sam's obviously a very good player as well, so I can imagine that was quite a good.
That's Sam Smith on CSM.
Yeah,
I'd actually quite like to have watched that. I'm sorry, Lee. I'm sure that was really funny in a violent way, because Sam is an executioner and a cold-blooded killer. Okay, I've got a few shout-outs in the chat before we move it along. Aaron Wilson is here. We love you, Aaron. I hope America is treating you well. Absolutely miss you. Noga Matthew, being able to speak about the GSC game state, pass, That's the one thing I don't like about it. It's normally something I can be relatively useful in telling people where I'm at. With GSC, you can be like, I don't know. I just don't know. It's really hard to call. And a reminder, if you haven't already seen the Nightbot, that you can like, subscribe, leave a comment, and you can sign up and become a member. And I want to shout out Chris S., who has just become a YouTube member. That means we are one YouTube membership away from 60. Can we hit 60 tonight? I believe we can. I believe someone out there wants to be member number 60 and keep this beautiful content train rolling. Come and support us. Come and get all that members-only content. Come and join all the competitions, the painting competition, TTS leagues, all that good stuff. We literally ask our members all the time, what do you want a video on? We'll go and make it. I think my next one I'm making is 5 ways to lose before you've even started playing the game or something. Someone asked for that. I was like, I had a couple of games this weekend where I can vouch for that one, so I'll give it a go. Please do sign up, become a member, join us on our Discovery, get involved in the Discord as well. We've got a massive Discord with over 550-ish people now, absolutely thriving in there. A lot of shit being chatted, a lot of good insights as well. Get involved. Follow Nightbot's example over there. They seem like a savvy individual. They know what's going on.
This is awful.
I'm glad someone does. So, Saturday night, I get really drunk. That's one thing that happens. I don't know what else happens. What else happened?
Pizza Express.
Oh, was that where we were?
Oh my god!
10:30. That's a pretty standard thing.
Yeah.
Food was good though, and then we went to a very well secured Premier Inn with some very fancy rooms.
Yes, we did. It's very, very, very nice. Hemel Premier Inn. Highly recommend it.
Slept in a bitch bed. Shared a room with.
Chris was a very late entry to the.
I got Friday night permission to actually stay over, and I was like, "Oh, it's fully booked. Anyone got a bed?" And Tom's like, "You can have, this thing,
the Loman special."
Okay, cool. So that was lovely. And
he repaid me by snoring like a bull elephant, so it's all fun.
You're welcome.
So then we
plotted our next game.
Plotted our next game, and I can't remember who we were drawn into, Chris. Actually, no, we'll do Omegon first. We'll get to us. But what I will shout out, there were some catering issues at this ITT. Now, Zach runs a very tight ship. Zach got a bit unlucky with a couple of things this time. I think there were a few mix-ups in communications, different things. So catering wasn't its usual. But next to the venue was a wonderful little Turkish style, I think, bistro pub thing called
Zaru's.
Zaru's. I suspect Turkish style. And it was fantastic food. And we ate there every day. And we had breakfast plotting our pairings there the next day. And it was with a proper orange juice. It was really good. Really, really nice. That made it all worth it.
It was really, really good.
Yeah. So just bring that venue, bring that little restaurant around with you everywhere, Zach, is my advice. I think if you can just uproot it and travel it to different places, that'll do me. So, Lewis, Omegon, what's happening on Sunday morning for Omegon?
Sunday morning, well, so Saturday evening, obviously, I have my car drama on the way home.
Yes, you do.
So I don't get back till incredibly late.
And you took the pairing cards with you, but we didn't
all
know
the
that
pairing
either.
information and stuff with me as well. So that was very convenient when I realised there was a chance I wouldn't actually be able to make it back the following morning. The dashboard decided it was Christmas a bit early and lit up like a Christmas tree.
Oh, no.
On the A1. So I limp her home, leave her there. She's now fine. It was just a sensor issue. It was diagnosed by the Black Crow guys on the way home, actually, because one of them was a mechanic. And he was like, that's probably what the problem is. And he was completely right. £35 later, the car is absolutely fine. But there we are. So, yes, thank you again to Harley for dragging me all the way back. We enjoyed doing hill starts together. That was good fun on the way home. But, yes, so we're thinking 2-1 after day one, solidly mid-table. Hopefully we get another favourable draw into a nice inexperienced team where we can start our second day slightly more comfortably and try and push towards that 4-1 result that we'd secretly quite like. Nope, redacted. Shit. Very good team. They have previously done very well at these events, and they've got a couple of killers in their lineup, which we did encounter. One of the guys, Byron, is a guy who's come to a few Saffron events of mine. Yeah. He's one of these players that always, regardless of how the game is going, he looks like he's just having the best time. Thankfully, I got a chance to play into him and his Grey Knights, and he just loves bouncing these big bricks of Grey Knight Terminators all over the board. It's literally 30 Terminators, 2 Librarians, and Drago. That's basically the list. There's a couple of strike teams, but that's basically it. And they're just boing, 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 boing all over the table. And I can't pin them down. I can't look at them. There's that stupid lone op strat I keep forgetting about. Byron keeps saying, I keep feeling like it's a gotcha. And it's like, it's not, Byron. I'm just incompetent and I can't remember. So I line everything up and then you just fuck off. So that was a game where, so I played into Byron's Grey Knights. Rob Strukari ended up into Ben Piddington's Necrons. Scrivo, you played against a JP imposter who's in the chat.
Yeah, I see him in the chat right now.
Tyrannid player called JP.
Wow, a clone. I was talking about making clones.
He wasn't as good.
You said it, not me.
No, you're supposed to be nice, Lewis.
I am nice. Broadly.
He's spending too much time around Ed. That's what it is.
RJP gets paired into the Death Guard, and Lee has his first experience against the Astra Militarum. Oh, JP in the chat.
JP's sad now. You've made him sad. Words have consequences, Lewis, apparently.
Horrible Lewis.
No, they were a lovely, lovely bunch. All of us, it looked like we're having this game ended in a 53-47 draw.
Oh,
this
amazing.
Is a round where we're basically every game is close all the way through. And I think we are in a position where I think we're slightly favourable on the pairings. I think I'm actually quite happy with how it ended up. I think there's a world where Tau versus Grey Knights ends up quite well in my favour. It has done in some of the practice I've had. Grey Knights is a matchup I'm relatively confident into, especially when they're not running around with Dread Knights. I think Rob has already played into Necrons at the event, is actually feeling quite happy about that. Scrivo, Lee are the NIDs are the 60 it's happened.
60 members. Lewis Chapman, we love you. Thank you very, very much. Now I'm greedy and I want more. We're going to 70. Who's taking us to
70 tonight?
Yes, tied up.
To the
70
moon.
tonight, I believe. To the moon, stonks. Aye. In 6 months. Anyway,
God,
Lewis,
no
you carry on telling your story.
Yeah. So Scrivo into the NIDs. We know that's going to be a 10-10. We're happy with that. We know Lee into the Guard is going to be close, but again, we're back Lee to get 10 points out of anybody. And then RJP gets his matchup in the Death Guard, which he's feeling quite confident at. So looking at JP and I there to try and score some points in these rounds. as I said, Byron's just jumping all over the place. He uses all of the Grey Knight strats to their absolute maximum. It's really hard for me to get a grip on one of his units, because if I can focus a unit down, I just kill it. And as soon as you start using those big blocks of Terminators, you have nothing left. But he just doesn't let me quite finish a unit for about 3 turns. So he just plays it so well to a point where I only get a 12-8 out of that match, which is much lower than I'd hoped. And I know from JP's perspective, he just could not kill a Death Shroud Terminator to save his life. And drops from what he's a relatively confident sort of 15 down to an 11. Rob Scrivo and Lee do exactly what they were supposed to do and get those 10s. But that ultimately means we just get a 53-47 draw. I think basically every single one of the games, there was just at least one key moment in every game that went against us. And I think in a situation where maybe even just one, maybe one or two of those instances had gone for us instead of against us, I think we turned that from a draw into a small 100%. Win. I think for me, Byron drawing enough cards to score 22, 23 points in the last round is just tips it from a comfortable win to a much closer one. Rob gets Lilith into a really good position into an easy combat, and then he rolls 4 1s to hit, which is a 12-point swing in Ben's favour. So that goes back down to a 10-10 for a good win.
I had a horrible situation with Gene Steelers with a Broodlord just surviving and tanking all their 5-up invuns, and I was like, well, I threw enough in. I thought they could just about die, and I think it was 2 or 3 combats it took to get them gone, and I don't think I even finished them. So that kind of held me up a bit too long.
Yeah, it just held you up. And then I look over at Lee's game, and every single Lehman Russ in the Guard army is on 1 wound left. Like, what do we even do with this? So it's just one of those things where actually a combination of I think we paired okay, I think we played okay, I think JP and I didn't get quite as many points as we were hoping for, but actually we still had opportunities through that game to take what is a very good team, run it close, and actually get in a position to win it. So happy with that. And obviously,
and we drew with that redacted team the previous ITT. So they're a strong team, and it can absolutely happen. They pair well. They're savvy on the pairings. So, they play the game well. And actually, one thing I think, because we've had rounds like this in the last few months as well, where you can just feel those 1 or 2 things going against you, and you just know it's going.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth reflecting on how healthy the game generally is. That's what it ultimately comes down to. It's these little moments. It's these little bits of luck. So when I started playing teams, it was, well, this army just murders everything. This army also just murders everything. This army just murders everything. This 4th one also murders everything. And then everyone else is just taking whatever the hell they can against that. And that's just not where Teams is now. And so with the missions, with the meta, it's so much more draw inclined as a base than it used to be. Yeah. And I think that's awesome. I think that's really, really cool. And you saw so many draws at the event, lots of really good teams playing into each other. I was looking at Ignite's actual scores. So Ignite are the best team in the country, right? The scores weren't blowing people out of the water.
The second round with 56 points, right?
Yeah, they only just crept through a round. Like, the game is just in a really, really healthy spot in terms of outcomes. But when it goes against you, it doesn't feel good.
But we're feeling fine about that. We're really happy with that. And ultimately, we're just like, fine. Well, that means our round 5 is going to be a nice, easy pairing, and we can walk away happy.
And as a contrast to what Lewis just said, with JP, straight after the match, I got a message from Davey, our Bugwatch man, saying that JP's been taking a lot of people's scalps locally at the Outriders events and stuff in their league, I think. Yep. So it was like they were definitely not going to be a pushover. And it was nice to hear from Davey. He was like, he thought I'd done quite well. So
I've played JP before. He's solid. He's great. And he's also a lovely guy, really nice guy.
Despite what Lewis says, because he's a horrible man.
Despite Lewis making enemies with him forever.
He's not even chatting anymore, so he's not even hearing this. So it's fine.
He's not
wonderful. So that's round 4 for Omega. Chris, what's going on in Alphariusville?
So we've drawn into Mambo number 5, RB. And I should probably stop to say Dino Miniatures is here. And he just said, just listening back, thanks for the kind words about my towel. It really was a shame the Storm Surge went down so fast to the Scud. It was a great game into Rob, though. I don't know, Dino, if you've got an Instagram or something you want to share.
I'm just looking it up now.
People should definitely have a look at those.
So we played into Mambo number 5 RB. Looking at their team composition, I think we felt reasonably happy in this. They had Tau, but it was just a bit of everything. They had Guard, they had Space Walls, which just didn't appear to have anything, but that's because most of the army was characters and it had a Land Raider. Then they had Tyranids and they had Imperial Knights. Okay, so Dino's Miniatures Instagram is also Dino Miniatures or Deno Miniatures, DENO_miniatures. Go check it out.
Oh my
Deno
God.
was his
Just go and have a
name.
look. You won't
The
regret it.
first photo on his Instagram is the Storm Surge. Just do it. Sorry.
Yeah. Get involved.
So pairings went really, really well. So we ended up with Paul playing into Imperial Knights, which he wanted.
Yeah.
Harley into Tyranids.
Which
Now,
he did
Harley
not want.
wasn't there for
No.
Harley wasn't there for pairings because he was
Being a hero.
Lewis. Harley had really bad traffic on the way home. He hadn't got home till like gone midnight. He then not been able to sleep because his mind was buzzing, so he got to sleep at about 2 and then was up at 5. I think it would be fair to say that it was fairly obvious that
Yes.
Harley hadn't got any sleep because he looked like he was off his face.
Yeah, he was not well.
So Tom literally came over and went, Harley's really delirious. We might have to get points elsewhere. So there you go.
He was also getting charged by 30 Gene Stealers turn 1,
he
which definitely
so
wasn't
miserable.
what you needed in his fragile state
He
at
was,
all.
he was like, oh, they're just Ed was into the Space Wars, which we were pretty confident with. Tom was into Guard. Ah, wow. Shocking. Nom.
Yeah,
And
lovely guard.
I was playing into Tau, which Tau always sets me on edge. Now, this round, from my perspective, was incredibly different to my 4 teammates' perspective. I think it would be fair to say. I was having an absolute mare of a time. I went second and I was filled with the voices of everyone else being like, yeah, they activate turn 3, 4, and 5. You get in, you pick up the Riptides, they just can't kill you. And I'm like, I'm going to play this a bit more aggressive. And basically I made a huge mistake turn 1. He went first. I had second turn, which on Bird Don't Trust is really good, but I made a really big mistake and it cost me 3 units. It cost me an Interceptor, it cost me a Strike unit, and it cost me a Calidus unit. That really sets me back. I then had to think, I'm probably just going to push and try and get these kills anyway with like everything else. And my Dread Knight stepped up to the plate and promptly both failed 4-inch charges, which led me to play turns 3, 4, and 5 with only 4 units. So I am absolutely scraping at the bow. I'm going, I can see this Curtis going like really bad. I might only get 4 or 5 points. Fuck. Meanwhile, my 4 teammates are having a great time. And yeah, you want to talk about that, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I had Paul playing the Knights on one side, and it looked like night games do, right? For a couple of turns, there's some Knights, and then you're like, there's not many Knights, and then there's the Knights, and so they were brought down. Paul's list is really good at just gradually womping its way through things with lots of volume. I played the Guard and didn't let them go anywhere or do anything. I was proud of this because they got me on the light board. Once again, our comp was not getting that light board out of dangerous places, and me and Paul were having to drop onto it. And I'm playing into literally a wall of tanks. But I was able to pin him in enough on one side that I could then get the Saboteur on that side. She's a lone op. He then can't actually shoot her off. It's Burden of Trust. She just guards and gets me primary all game. And then I go second. I get the rest at the end. So I was in a good position from there. I was using a couple of rock grinders. This is a bit of Danny Porter tech because they're just brilliant. I don't know if you guys have heard of this Tempestus Aquilons unit. You might have heard of it.
Not a problem.
They like to turn up 3-inch deep strike away. I don't know you've seen the meme from the boys where Homelander goes, "Oh no," and then kills a guy. That's what the Rock Branders do, right? The Aquilons come in, they're like, "Oh no," and then they barbecue them and run them over. Then they use reinforcement strat, they bring them in again. You go, "Oh no," and then you barbecue them, run them over again. Very straightforward, and it's a matchup I've now played. I'm ready for that not to be a matchup that's in the game now. I'm a bit bored of it, but it was a great game. Lovely guy, Ryan, and that was 18-2. Meanwhile, Ed 20-0'd the Space Wolves with the Eldar, because that's just what he does at this event. Absolutely obliterated them, and they were having the exact same experience that every other team had, which is they've got the Eldar, they're pretty confident that's fine. They all discover it's not fine. The team morale breaks, everyone panics, it all goes wrong, and it was really, really funny. And then Harley was briefly very concerned, and then all the Tyranids were dead. And Harley got his points, and that was
got his mojo back as well.
Got his mojo back, yeah.
Basically, it was Paul won 16-4, Harley won 16-4, Ed won 20-0, Tom won 18-2. I lost 9-11 for the third game in a row.
Oh my God.
So that was
consistent.
it.
Very consistent.
We won the round 17-9-21. Yeah, I mean, for me, I was really pissed off because I played really badly for 2 turns, but then I played really well for 3 turns. So it's kind of like strings and roundabouts.
Yeah.
Legion played. They played into Fire and Dice Targaryen.
Oh, they had a bad run.
This was harsh. This was harsh. The Fire and Dice, very good team. Alex with his guard lost 13-7 into Necrons. Jack Doddy got 20-0'd by Ewan Bedford Cooper's CSM.
Yeah, Ewan is so lethal. That's 2 really horrible CSM players they've managed to hit in the same event.
Lee beat Tyranid. Oh, what surprise. 9. Jamie East lost to Jacob with his 1,000 Suns 11-9. And Jack Asher lost to Byron Sidhu's Demons 4.
That's Demons GSC. Bad matchup. Not fun.
Not fun.
Do you think Lee's Matrix only had entries for NIDs?
I think so.
Just read through everything.
He's played them more than any other army in 10th, just by coincidence, and he's never lost it. Which is really funny.
Tyranid Slayer.
He just gets them.
JP.
He just gets them, yeah.
We were 3 wins and a draw. We were still undefeated, and we were all very excited about the potential that we could make the final still. There was a chance.
Yeah, it wasn't out of our hands.
If we won our final round. And who would we play? Well, who knows? Because
someone easy, right?
I'm going to fill us in next.
What did Omegon draw for the final round?
So we're a loss, 2 wins and a draw. So we are solid in the middle of the table. So when the pairing comes up and we see it's none other than the Grim Dark Garage, I'm a bit like, PCP really, really, really hates it. and I can only apologise to my team. If I just keep slagging it off, maybe this will go away, but it's just not working. I just keep being horrible about it, and they keep making it worse for us. For anyone who doesn't know, the Grim Dark Garage are the team that only a couple of weeks prior went to the Saffron Slam Teams tournament and just crushed everybody, including Alpharius.
I mean, not this Alpharius team. Can I just
the better one, right?
Just
the
get that out there. It wasn't the Alpharius.
Yeah, I don't think I was
didn't
on
have
that.
that great
on that. Basically no one was.
Me and Chris aren't on it. Is it even Alpharius?
It's not.
Who even knows?
But they did also crush all the other 6++ teams at the event as well.
Yeah, they did smash my team as well. Yeah.
Plus they've beaten, and unfortunately we didn't change that trend. I'm afraid. Just spoiler alert. And obviously they went on to win the Saffron Slam.
They did. Team in form.
And I think 2 of their players at Saffron went 20-0 in every single game as well. So, it wasn't even close. So it was like, oh, for fuck's sake, how did this happen? And I must admit, I think mine and Scrivo's heads had gone. Scrivo, you were on 64 painkillers by that point. The lack of sleep had finally caught up with me, and poor old Rob ends up with no decent pairings again in any kind of matrix. And so they're running. Michael Boyle is running his Eldari, so he switched out from what he was running previously. Tom running the guard, Alex Gins the terrifying Votan player who just seems to 20-0 everybody he plays.
Yeah.
Michael on his Death Guard and James on his Tau. We put me down first. I tend in a couple of the games going down as first defender and trying to take out what everybody else didn't like. So I ended up taking the Tau Mirror on the light board, knowing that it would just probably be a 10-10 game. He's running the Rec cadre and is a much better Tau player than me, but I figured if a bit of jammy luck, I'd be able to get that 10-10. We pair JP into the Eldari, which is a pretty horrible match for the Eldari. I think it's full on swarm nids. It's like 80 gaunts and a few big monsters. So it's just the Eldari just can't deal with that volume of stuff. Scrivo, you get the short straw and end up playing into the guard, but I
chose that over Death Guard. That was the point. That was the worst bit. It was like, do you want this or do you want this?
No, I think you acquitted yourself admirably in that matchup. We figure, given Alex with his Votan smashing everybody, we'll put him into Lee because nobody smashes Lee. Rob gets into Death Guard, which is a match that isn't great for Drukhari. They don't tend to die very easily to the Drukhari stuff, and he can't really get close to them with Incubi. So we kind of end the pairings thinking this hasn't gone great. Really, I mean, we've got one decent match. The rest are looking average at best. It went basically as we expected. JP crushed his Eldari matchup, got 15 points out of that quite happily. Scrivo did an admirable job into the guard. You got 8 points out of that. How did that go, Scrivo?
Yeah, the biggest challenge I had is I managed to pin him in, but he did the smart thing. So I played Tom before at a Saffron Teams event before. And he put his Bulgrin in front of all of his tanks in a line. So if I wanted to get to his tanks, I had to go through the Bulgrin.
Yep.
So I smashed into them. I think I put Azrael's unit of Inner Circle Companions, the Lion, and some Deathwing Knights into them turn 2. There was 4 of them dead. The 2 of them survived the rest of the game. Because of that, I think it really tied me up. I didn't then quite manage to kind of hit back into him a bit harder once I got out the combat with him, because obviously I was falling back and charging again. Most of his tanks didn't leave his deployment zone until turn 5. I think one did finally kind of dip out. So that piece of the game worked really well, but I don't think I had enough of a hit to kind of get through them and then hit into the tanks, which I really needed to do. But I predicted on the Matrix it was going to be kind of an 8 or 9. So kind of hitting that, I felt happy, considering his Aquilons dropped down and then the Infiltrators had kind of pushed them into somewhere he didn't want them to be, which was nice. So, but he got quite fortunate cards, had the resources, and it was just like, with
the Aquilons, they can just score anything. That's the position they're in.
But they died and came back and then died.
And they do that.
But they scored. And that's the important thing.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If anything, I think I could have done with 2 squads of Infiltrators to cover both flanks of my board. But I don't think it'd be necessary in most matchups. But
absolutely.
No, I think you did to get 8 points out of the guard, given where they are.
Guard are a very strong army in the game.
And he was no slouch.
Really happy with that. And then we saw an occurrence which I've never seen before. I don't know whether Tom or Chris.
I can tell you I have never seen it.
Our reliable Lee gets 0 out of the Votan with his Kale. I haven't actually, because Lee needed to head off straight. Basically, as soon as he finished his game, he needed to head off.
You know what? He came and said bye, and he was incredibly chill.
Yeah.
He
was so zen. It was nice.
Just got 28.
How'd you guys oh well, and that's our Lee, unflappable.
From what I understand, his tanks bounced. The Votan literally just went bang, 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 and just killed all of his shooting, and it was done.
Yeah. And Votan are very, very dangerous. And especially on these UKTC boards where they are just going to shoot you. They're just going to be in position to shoot you.
Hide from them. Yeah.
There's no hiding. Now they've got the Jaegers, you can't even block them. So they're really good. And Alex is as good a Votan player as there is in the UK at the moment, by the look of it, which is pretty scary. Scary.
And Rob gets 2 out of the Death Guard matchup, which is
Rob. Yes.
He was slightly disappointed about because of how good a player he is, but I think that's probably fair.
Sky Splinter are having a bad time.
It was 3 units of the Terminators.
Yeah,
so
that is. I took one
chill.
look at that and I was like, if we play them, I can't go anywhere near that. That is some sweet anti-GSC tech in that Death Guard.
That's why I noped it, because I was like, I die into it.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think potentially we might have. Maybe me going down as first defender might not have been the right situation there, because I think there's a world where that Death Guard list, I have a play into it with the Tau. because I try and just keep it at arm's length.
Yeah.
But then we end up in the same place we end up with always with Sky Splinter, is that where do we put it? What does it go into? What out of that list? It might get points out of Eldari, but then we're forcing JP maybe to go into guards, and does it get 15, 16, 17 points out of Eldari? I'm not entirely sure it does. So we better to keep the NIDs into that match. This is the complexity of the pairings, especially when you haven't necessarily practiced as much as well, trying to learn how best to put it in. 'Cause I don't think you want to put Drukhari into the tower either, especially Ret Cadre, because they just come behind you and just smash you up. There's nothing you can do about that.
Yep.
Definitely don't want them into the Votan, because you don't get anywhere near them. You don't want them into guard either, I guess. I mean, Rob did get points
and
out.
This is Drukhari 5-man teams, everybody. There's just nowhere to hide.
This was my kind of reflection of it at the end, was that we had too many limitations to what we could bring, which then meant as a result, those 5, we're going to have horrible rounds where it was like we get one good score. And if we're not getting 10s everywhere else, we've lost.
And I think one swing is all it takes in the rounds as they currently stand, because the game is balanced. You're not all 20-0ing things. You haven't all got broken things, so it's tough. It's very tough for them. Yeah,
especially when you're at equal skill level as well. So I put Michael and Rob on the same level in terms of skill. And unfortunately, that means if Rob can't outskill his opponent, it's the weakness of the faction comes in and ends up like that. But I would say against my game against James, I have not had that much fun playing 40k in a long time. It was just total. Scriver, you were next to me, weren't you? And it was just. And I think I was next to Rob, actually, but just absolute carnage the whole way. My Storm Surge. Obviously, the best way to play against the Storm Surge is to lock it in combat, because it can't do anything. Then it can't move, which means it can't get out of this little box. And I thought, in all the other pairings, I always have a little line of fire warriors in front of the Storm Surge, so you can't charge it, because they're hidden behind the wall. The Storm Surge is set back slightly from those. And then it makes it very difficult to end up in a situation where you're actually in combat with the Storm Surge, because you've got to make quite a long charge to get there in the first place. But I didn't do it against Tau. Not a problem at all. But James decides, you know what, Pathfinders, they're going in, knocking up Storm Surge. And I think I have the big brain play. I heroically intervene my own Pathfinders to end up with a Pathfinder on Pathfinder fight in the center.
How many turns does that take to resolve?
Well, this is me not playing 40k enough, in that I forget that round you only can hold 2 objectives. You don't get more points for holding more than 2. I'm thinking it's like taking hold, where you can get 15. So I heroically intervene, claim the middle objective of my Pathfinders. I'm like, yes, James, screw you, I win. Oh shit, I can only hold 2 primaries. That was a waste. He then draws overwhelming force, kills the Pathfinder. So by doing that, I actually lose CP and give him victory points. But I then get 32 points in the final round and make it a 10-10 draw. So
beautiful. Well done. Well done. Barry in the chat says, on the note of one swing, Trash round 5 went 10, 10, 10, 10, 20. Was beautiful. Yeah, that was kind of what we were gunning for. I think with a slight up on Harley to cover us in other places, or up on me in different rounds. But I think right now that's a very logical model. If you can build and pair for it in teams, it works. I think Ignite were kind of playing that kind of 40k in a lot of their rounds. You know, they were keeping it close in most of the games and having one blowout somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. It's fascinating watching teams working in that slightly more balanced environment.
Definitely, especially at the 5-man level.
Yeah,
Super Strudel in the chat says the Pathfinder's probably still locked in combat now. Yes, I would agree with that.
I remember when we did it at the boot camp and we had like Termagants fighting Pathfinders, and we like rolled it out for a couple of turns, and then we were like, let's stop doing this. This is sad.
This is a silly place.
This is really
5, really got 4. But yeah, we ended with a 35-65 loss, which is unfortunate, but it ends us with 2 wins, a draw and 2 losses, which, given the 6++ mantra, means we are absolutely bang average. We finish in 30th place. Can't say fairer than that. Look at that.
Hell yeah. Amazing. And as for ourselves, I want to shout out a couple of people, because VT Kobe was in the chat. I think that's worth pointing out, because Kobe we were hanging out with in this final round, weren't we, Chris? Hello, Mr. Fellblade as well. Lovely to have you here. And Connor Nichols still piping up as well. Nightbot's still giving it all that in there as well. That's good. Do hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. But Chris, what happened round 5, mate?
Well, Legion, they played Daddy's Trash Boys.
I didn't know my Trash Boys were there.
Fantastic.
And they won. Whee!
Well done,
so, Jax Admech drew with Chaos Knights 10-10. Jack Asher's GSC beat Tyrannid 12-8. Alex Chancellor got his trusty small win 11-9 into Orcs. Jamie East went huge into the World Eaters with a 19-1.
Votan love World Eaters so much.
And Lee changed it up and decided he, rather than getting 0-20 or 20-0ing, he'd draw. So he drew with Dark Angels 10.
Nice.
Meanwhile, we were having a lovely time because at lunch we were there in our favourite place, and the parents came through, and there it was, probably the one that I actually really did want.
Yeah, I wanted it as well.
Every team available, this was probably the team I wanted the most, which was Vanguard Tactics.
100%.
Now, not just because of their stratospheric internet celebrity nature.
And incredible good looks.
And that's just Jake.
Yeah.
But because we played them at the final round in the last event.
We did.
And in the last event, we paired really well, and a couple of things went quite wrong, which probably turned something like a 60-65 point win into a 57 point loss.
Yeah.
And we were quite keen on revenge because we felt we should have won last time and we really wanted to win this time.
Yeah. I want to shout out Harley because Harley was giving it all that about all these possible pairings, right? At lunch, was sat at lunch and I was going, we could pair this, we could pair this, we could pair down. And me and Chris are both sat there like, shut up, because we don't know what's going to happen. And you have to be ready for the best and toughest games. And I think me and Chris, as I say, we were both actually keen to play someone good in the final round and get to show what we could do one more time. Yeah. And we were very happy when we got Vanguard. But yeah, don't waste time speculating on what you could pair.
Yeah. And we'd actually matrixed this already. So we had like some little time advantage. And we started really thinking about it, about who we could put down. There were a lot of permutations being thrown around about who we could put down first, and what path would it kind of end up with. It's quite useful to do that because then as a player you can start to think, well, what am I going to be playing into? So for me, for like my Grey Knights, it was very much, or it looks like I could be either taking on the Guard or maybe Sisters, but probably most likely GSC. And I'd never played GSC before, so I was getting like the lowdown, and we were talking about it because the last two times I've played Ben Jones, I've been absolutely annihilated, and I was kind of like, so there was that slight trepidation there because obviously my role as a player in this team is to score close, and so that was a bit of a concern.
Yeah, that's scary.
I should shout out that VT Kobe is probably the only reason that Vanguard Tactics have got this far. So VT
with his clipboard,
was an absolute hero.
He was their coach.
He was also just a delight to have around the table. Really fun, really brilliant addition. So thanks.
I think he had the biggest and bluest balls you could ever have.
You definitely wanted to be playing.
So we kind of had decided that we assumed that they were going to put down Guard on the light board first because that was the logical thing to do.
This, by the way, after we'd spent an entire event bamboozling people by not putting Guard on the light board first, but in fact leading with a combat army and finding that worked really well for us. Bear that in mind. Let's carry on. We decided Vanguard weren't going to do that. They would instead do the obvious thing and put the shooty army down.
The reason we felt that was because it generated good matchups for us.
Yes.
So that's why we did entertain a variety of thoughts, and eventually we opted on me going down as first defender. And that was the best win path for us. And if things then played out as we thought we would do, I think it gave us about 60 points as a win if that went as the trend. And obviously Vanguard Tactics then completely blew everything wide open by starting with Blood Angels.
Boom.
Now, the reason we thought that was a bad choice was because it meant we could put Guard and... Was it Guard and...
Guard and Eldar, I think so, yeah.
I can't remember.
We certainly had two good scores into it.
Yeah, we had 2 yellow-greens into Blood Angels. I know Jordan's role was to blunt, but we were just like, okay, cool. So we gave Eldarian something else, which was good for us. I had the choice of Guard or Sisters. They chose Eldari for the Blood Angels. And we were a bit like, Ed thinks he 20-0s this, or at least 15s it.
He'd certainly arrived at that during the event.
We were
I've
like,
been thinking about the Blood Angel game, and I think it's good.
yeah, and we were like, okay,
In
because he's like, he
theory.
just can't hurt me because the race knight's -1 damage.
Yeah.
I think it turns out Jordan didn't know that or hadn't been told that, which obviously kind of mitigates the game plan slightly.
Yeah.
I took the guard, took that off for everyone, and then we didn't have Mr. Pairing's Princess anymore.
Yeah, he's gone. He's already out of there.
He's gone. And so we put down Paul because he had one amber left, and he got to play into Jake, Celebrity Jake,
Yeah, lucky man.
with his CSM.
Beautiful.
And this was another spiraling, sudden middle of the round pairing lightboard situation. Again, Jake does have guns, so this for us not good. And this is again why leading with BA for them. We then took a board. We didn't take a shooty one. They then did take a lightboard. So they got the best of us on that one, I think.
So I took the heavy board into the guard.
Yeah, so that was one little wrinkle in our comp that we weren't quite getting, was how to manage this light board. That's something I think we'll work on for next time.
So we've got, and then we ended with Tom's GSC into Boxy's sisters.
Yes.
Which left Harley playing into Ben. Now, Harley had been slightly worried about this, but as we explained to Harley, firstly, he's playing out of his skin. Secondly, he, out of everyone, has played that matchup more.
Yeah, Harley and I have played it 3 or 4 times. He's played Danny Porter. He's played good players, and he keeps it close. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're looking at the pairings, and I think we didn't really know how Tom would do into the sisters. We felt it was drawish. We had Harley as drawish or slight loss. We had Ed as a big win into the Blood Angels, hopefully. We had the Wolves into the CSM, which board dependent we thought was kind of okay. And then we had me into guard, where I said I would score somewhere between 7 and like on a good day 9 points. But obviously Mike's a very good player, so I wasn't sure because I hadn't played the guard matchup into like a top tier player with like a really good list before, so I wasn't quite sure how that would go. And so off we went. And I think we all had a very lovely and wonderful time.
It was really fun.
What's very interesting is when you're playing against the really good teams and it's really focused, what stops happening is we all stop going across.
Yeah, there's no drifting along the road.
I tried to do it a few times, but no one knows. Everyone's like, I think it's going okay, or I think it's not. Like, no one really knows. And it's and then my game was getting so intense and so super close that I just couldn't start going. And then Ed comes over and says he's 20-0'd Jordan. And we're like, fuck, that's huge. Because I checked in on him and he was like, it's probably about 15, like a couple of rounds before. And we're like, suddenly like, okay. And then Kobe's coming across and he's chatting to Mike and he's saying, where are you at? And Mike's like, still the same as before. And Kobe's like, I think you're going to have to push, mate. Yeah. I'd very much gone into this game with a very defensive mindset. Probably helped me because it got so badly against Tau. And put into perspective, after 3 turns, I'd lost about 5 models. Like I was just hiding and scoring my points and just doing my uttermost. I could do it, but we had this 20-0. And then I don't black out, but I don't have any idea what's going on until my final result is in. And once again, mine is the final game to finish. We're literally scraping there, and I'm scraping for every single point that I can get because I'm like, we've got a 20-0. Must be up in the round.
Yeah.
The last I had heard before this blackout was that Tom's was going to be close-ish. Harley was on for a small win. Ed had 20-0'd Jordan. Paul was on a 12 or 13 point win. And I was thinking it was going to be somewhere between 7 and 10 points. So I was like,
it's on the cusp.
This is going to be so close. Surely we've got this. Just go on, Chris, you can do it. So, Tom, how was it actually going?
Oh, it was a tough game, Chris. So as you'll all know, Stephen Box is quite good at Warhammer.
Yeah.
He's also a lovely man. Now, he was trying to have his game face on. He had serious Steve on when I arrived. He was giving a very, very war face. And one of my objectives for this game was I'm going to giggle and be silly until Steve is also giggling and being silly. And I think I achieved that across the game. So we had a very good time with that. And Steve is an incredible combat player. And I know this about him. So I should have known going in with my purely combat GSC army that Steve was not going to make this easy for me. And he plays Army of Faith. No one, and I know because I write Goonhammer's Comp Innovations, nobody plays Army of Faith. Only Steve has played it. And it is really good. It allows you to run melee and shooting. It allows you to pop auras of ignore all modifiers. So if, let's say, for example, a bunch of -1 to wound aberrants had tagged your tanks, you say, I'm still hitting at full capacity. I'm still wounding at full capacity. I don't care. I hose you down anyway. It has lance and lethals, so you can be very aggressive. And it has -1 to hit defensive strats. GSC have no rerolls. As soon as they hit minuses to hit, they don't work very well. Steve Box has also practiced GSC against Ben Jones. Ben Jones is pretty good at GSC, you might have noticed. He's been doing very well lately. So Steve is in a very good position here. And he deploys. My list doesn't have guns. This is another one of those situations where my comp isn't right. I haven't got the right tools here. If I have some guns, it's slightly different. But Steve deploys phenomenally aggressively, loads up castigators, melee. He's not going for his side. He's coming for my side. He's not interested in his safe side. His whole army is loaded up to come for the side I would normally play for in this sort of situation. So as soon as he deploys, I'm looking at it. He's got interventions with Val through his lines. He's got lines of Battle Sisters and Sacrosancts out in front to absorb me. And I just look at that and go, oh, I can lose this 20-0 so badly. Like this is a 20-0 situation. And I knew from last time we lost the round because Alex Chancellor got 20-0 in that round. So at this stage, I have a decision point to make. I am pretty confident, based on the tools he's got, the way he set them up, that if I try and win this game, as I had done in a couple of the other rounds, I'm going to lose the game. So I'm taking the decision then, okay, I'm going to settle for lower side of a draw and just try and hang in there. I'm going to threaten him, going to try and stretch him, going to try and make him go sideways, make him go backwards, make him keep him guessing and just score. And we'll see how it goes from there. And I do attack him a little bit. I kill an immolator and kill a bit of his chaff around the edges and avoid connecting too hard. Steve keeps setting me these lovely traps where it's like, here's like one sister, but if you charge in, you're going to get intervened by a canoness or by the Triumph or all sorts of things. By the way, using miracle dice on interventions, that's naughty. That's naughty because they can fly. They can come flying out. You can get all these big base models. You can actually get them zooming out into really powerful places. So the whole game was set that if at any point I went into a unit and allowed that to happen, his very dangerous units are ending up mid-board, where with Miracle Dice and their movement, they're taking my home field. So I just have to never let this happen. That's the game plan here, right? It's going to yo-yo Val or the Triumph to my home field, at which point it's 20-0. So I was like, I have to never let this happen. And I do manage to never let this happen. And I play Pest, and I frustrate him. But because Steve is on end of turn, that means with the situation as I fade out of control, I have a couple of moments where I don't play it as right. My Patriarch gets stranded and gets picked up without doing damage. That's a very bad play from me. And then I have some melee echoes connect into a castigator. They leave it on 1 wound. We're so close, but we don't quite kill it. A couple of little things don't go right for me. But it means that Steve's able to get his burns off at the end, which carries him through to the win because he gets a few extra differential points on top of that. So I think Steve was good value for this. His list was really well designed, set up really well for me. It's that classic example like we were having with the Eldar all weekend. If you have something that people haven't played against, haven't thought about, you have such an edge right now. If that person is on it and that person knows what you're going to do, but you don't know what they're going to do, massive, massive edge in the game. And Steve executed that really, really well. As an example of just how good this Sisters book is, that's a detachment literally nobody plays. It's got an incredible suite of tools. If you want to play Mixed Arms Sisters, go and try it. You'll have a great time. Highly recommend it. And he executed it brilliantly, and we had a really fun game. It was very good. Again, he had Kobe coming over and being like, "We need you to get more," and he kept telling me, "Yeah, unfortunately, he's quite good at Warhammer, and he's not letting me get more." So I was just keeping him at arm's length for just long enough. But in the end, solid win for Steve. So it was 14-6. But I think with obviously, we had news about Ed getting his 20 and everything else, and I was like, as long as I can just make it so there's not an equivalent for Steve, who's a heavy hitter for them, just like Ed is for us, that's going to keep us in a good position. And that was about all I could muster, and I have to try and get him next time.
Absolutely, man. But no, it sounds like, especially considering the matchup was one we hadn't necessarily.
Yeah, and that's on me for not doing the research. Right, I had to research
But
that list and
maybe next
understand it.
time I don't take the guard, I take the sisters instead, and that
Yeah,
we might
maybe.
have had a different path. Who knows?
Yeah,
So then Harley. So Harley ended up losing 11-9 to Ben.
Yeah.
I think
great result.
It's a really great result. Pre round, you would have been like, sweet, yes, please, we'll take that all day long. I think Harley obviously felt like he was really close to a small win at some point. I think he said he made a mistake or something like that, which ended up in the 9-11. Paul says, and he could probably fill this in more detail in the chat, but Paul basically said he was on for a 12 or a 13. He then had a decision point. Did he deny primary or did he fully commit to killing
Fabius
Bile?
Bile, the Bile brick was chosen. Yeah,
and he didn't quite realise how deadly Bile's brick was.
it's
He
so
went for
good.
the primary denial. Bile's brick then went huge and completely flipped the game.
Yeah.
And Paul ended up losing 7-13. And obviously, I didn't know any of this. So I'm playing Mike. Really, really great game. Mike's a very good player. He was also like, I haven't played like since LGT.
Yeah.
So we were
He's a
both
busy guy. I mean,
Yeah.
they all are, right? They all are very
Exactly,
busy.
yeah. We were both in that situation. I was very cautious. I was like, I can't get blown out here. Just play your points, do what you do best. And I feel like I played this pretty well. I did make one slight mistake at one point, which ended up not having a knock-on effect. But like as we were talking it through, like Mike was very much aware that he was making little mistakes. There were a few things he did which definitely he didn't quite get right, and I mean, he was very complimentary about how I played, and I felt like I got it just right, and because this was a game he wanted, right? They wanted their guard into the Grey Knights. He felt he would get a good win there. And I was basically saying, no, I'm only going to score 5 primary, and I can't really deny you. I mean, I went for it turn 1. I planted my Paladin brick down, boom. I'm going to rinse these 20 Deathcore Krieg guys. He'd said to me, just so you know, they are a bit tougher than people think. I'm like, they haven't faced a fully operational Paladin brick before. Anyway, the Paladin brick killed 3 guardsmen, so that didn't go well. Thankfully, I didn't have to waste the sigil because he triggered this. And this game, this was I was like really worried on edge. Mike was confident. He keeps saying, "Yep, I'm still on track, still on track." But then there were just a couple of things that didn't quite go right, and when you just sense body language, you just sense emotions. He kind of deflated slightly. He was sat down now rather than like stood over the table.
Oh, he's in the chair. He's in the chair.
I just started to get this thing, and he had bottom of turn, and I just chosen. He had his turn 3, and he basically was told he needed to push, and to push he'd shoved all of his troops and stuff out into the middle of the board. And just whacked everything forwards. Like he rapid ingress right in front of dreadnoughts with his 15 scary guys to try and survive to then steal my home field and stuff. So he's done that on his bottom of turn 3, and he's like, do you want to take a secret mission? And I'm like, well, Drago's brick has sat here doing nothing the entire game. Your backfield is completely open. If Drago gets back into your backfield on my secret mission of taking your home field, and I just blitz with shooting the big Leontis brick of guardsmen, I don't think he can stop my secret mission. So
Guard are often quite light at the back if you can get in.
I was like, and because of the way the turn order worked, I was like, well, I can take my secret mission. I now pick up my Drago unit and go and sit 9 inches away from his mortars on the backfield, and pray to all the gods that I make my 6-inch charge. And then on his, so then I then do make my 6-inch charge. I don't have a CP to reroll it, but I make my 6-inch charge. And I then wait and see, because I've also shot away Leontis' unit. What I have to say at this point is, for 4 games in this event, the Dread Knights were absolute trash.
Yeah.
They rolled under average the entire time, which is why people take lots to try and equalize out the numbers. In this game was the game where they decided they were not going to miss. They just fired loads of flamer shots, constantly annihilated large amounts of guardsmen. The big guns were hitting most of the time. I wasn't shooting them into tanks because in my experience that is a waste of time winning on fires. But they weren't just killing 2 guardsmen, they were killing 4 or 5 guardsmen off 6 shots with that. Like every time they went into combat, I mean, one dread I almost one shot a Dawn in combat. Like they just went huge. And I just waited to see on his turn 4, was he going to send his Deathcore Krieg brick back to Drago's unit to try and stop the secret mission, which was fairly obvious what I'd taken, or was he going to send it forward? And he sent it forward. And at that point, I was like, thank fuck, I'm safe. And I think sometimes you do forget that it's that hold 1, hold 2. And by not denying my secret mission, I was still going to get 40 points.
Yeah.
Anyway, the game ends, and I've got, in a stunning turn of events, I've got yet another 9/11, 4th in a row, baby. And I turn around and I'm like, guys, what's the final result? And they're like, 51-49 to us. Like, 10 to 15 minutes. I had been sweating like so much every point, because like every point's got this, get this in. I should also clarify that we got a slight thing wrong. I went to burn his home field objective on the final turn. Mike was like, well, you can't score primary in the final turn because you've taken a secret mission. I was like, okay, fair enough. So I ended up on 35 primary rather than the 40 I could have. Afterwards, Ed was like, why didn't you just burn it? I was like, oh, because we said that I couldn't. He was like, no. You can't score primary in turn 5, but Scorched Earth, the burning is triggered at the end of the battle, which is not turn 5.
Oh, that's interesting.
You do the action whenever, but the scoring actually happens at the end of the battle. And then I spoke to a few other people, and they all said the same thing. So just for those who are aware, when you're playing Scorched Earth, and if you do a secret mission, you can also burn and score points from it in turn 5.
Yeah.
That would have made it a 10-10, which obviously looks a lot nicer. I'm really glad we didn't win like 54-46, and that was the 1 point.
Mate, I had your back, don't you worry.
That would have been so fucking awful.
There was no danger of that.
But yeah, Tom had fucked it, so it's fine.
Yeah, it was fine. I'd been mothered by a very, very scary Steve. So I think that was one where it was progress, and it's another one, isn't it, where you're like, oh, maybe it was there, but it's just being in these rounds. I think feels really, really good now. And they were lovely guys.
We could measure the progress from our last event, right, directly.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool to be like, actually, this time we felt quite confident going in.
Yeah.
And we really got it right. And I think I have to shout out, like, just the Alpharius team as a whole. This was probably like the most complete we felt as a team before, in terms of not necessarily, by taking a secret mission, Ed. So my primary cap's at 40, doesn't it?
Yeah. Carry on. Don't worry
you
about
were also a melon.
Don't worry about Ed. Carry on.
Theory.
So I think for us as a team, we felt like we the preparation hadn't been necessary. I do know I'd not played any practice games. Ed chose his army on the Sunday of the event, but in terms of how we matrixed, in terms of we had a lot of
once we were locked in, we did a lot, right?
Yeah, we had a couple of team meetings. We matrixed for like 15 of the top teams. We were really analysing. We had a good structure. Yeah. We were checking in on each other as best we could without a coach. I think we did. I think we did a really good job as a team. We felt like a proper good team. We had a good army set up in terms of how we linked. We learned a lot. We really got a good vibe for teams. And
you know how it used to be. I mean, I had this with singles. You'd be coming home from the event, and you're like, I know what I'll do for my list, and I'll do it differently. This time it's like on the way back, it's like, oh my God, I know what we need to do with the team to organise this and this. Exactly. I know how we do it with the boards. I know how we do it with the comp and the roles. And it just feels like we're getting that incremental improvement with that. And it was so fun. That's the main thing. It was just so fun.
Teams is best, guys. Ignore what Davey says.
It's okay to be wrong and northern.
Yeah, Davey doesn't like teams. We'll have to get you to a UKTC.
We'll bring him around. We'll get him
around. But yeah, no, it was genuinely awesome. I mean, it was really nice, obviously, to touch base with all the other teams and see how they're getting on. It sounds like they had a great time and represented the team really well. And that's always really good. So another successful ITT for.
And we hung around for the prizes, and Scrivo got best sport, which we've mentioned, but I think definitely deserves looking back to
Absolutely.
once
What a
again.
hero.
From the cabinet.
What a hero.
What an
That's
absolute
my
star!
Darkfire one, but it's
Absolute
not
star.
as impressive.
So yeah, lots of plans afoot. I'm not going to pretend we're going to do podcast questions now, guys, because this has been an epic. We'll be back again soon for podcast questions, and we'll be having some fun with that. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for bearing with us. Thank you to everybody we played. You're all amazing. What a scene we have in the UK. Can't wait to be out there again in a few months' time for the next ITT. We will see you all again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.